Chapter 126. The onlooker sees the game more clearly than the person involved. The people of the Lu family were caught in the trap. They were blinded by interest. They were thinking about how the Lu family could develop, how they could grow, and how they could earn countless Xian crystals after they got the Blood Evil Island. Perhaps some people would think of the worst possibility, but in the face of huge benefits, they automatically threw away the bad thoughts. As far as they were concerned, Xueqiu only had 3 warriors of the Soul Pond realm, while they had 8 green dwarf. Xueqiu knew that he was no match for the Blood Evil Island, and they had given him so many Xian crystals a year. Besides, they only wanted the Blood Evil Island for a year. How could Xueqiu and the others say no? Lu Li was not a member of the Lu family. At least, he never regarded himself as one of the Lu family. Therefore, he didn't care too much about how much the Lu family could gain. The Lu family was just a temporary shelter for him. Lu Li was calm and he considered the whole picture. In the old days, he didn't like to think because Lu Ling would help him with everything. After Lu Ling was brought to the Cyan Plains, Lu Li had matured a lot. He liked to use his brain on many things, to get rid of the fog and see the essence. He thought from Xueqiu's perspective. The Blood Evil Island was Xueqiu's foundation. He had been operating here for more than 10 years. If he lost the Blood Evil Island, what would he have left? Since Xueqiu could rise up at the Thousand Island Lake, he must be a very smart man. If they gave up the Blood Evil Island, the Lu family would be able to develop rapidly. By then, the status of the Lu family and the Lu family would be reversed. The Lu family would be the dominant family. It would be up to the Lu family to decide whether they wanted to leave, stay or destroy the Lu family. What was Xueqiu's purpose in starting this war? He wanted to get the secret recipe of the Lu family to grow blood caterpillar grasses. What about the Blood Evil Island? They would never be able to get the secret recipe. Instead, they might be destroyed by the Lu family at any time. Therefore, unless Xueqiu was an idiot, he would never give up the Blood Evil Island. Then the question was, why did Xueqiu come out to negotiate? Why did he pretend to be seriously considering? The only explanation was that he was stalling for time. What was the point of stalling for time? Of course, they were waiting for reinforcements. All the battleships outside the Blood Evil Island were gone. Needless to say, they had gone out to look for reinforcements. Xueqiu had been operating here for more than 10 years. If he paid a huge price, he would definitely be able to invite some reinforcements. After hearing Lu Li's explanation, Lu Yi was shocked. She took several deep breaths to calm herself down. After some careful analysis, his face turned pale. It seemed that Lu Li's words made sense. Lu Yi dared not to make the decision herself. She called Patriarch 7 and the others over at once and told them what Lu Li said. After Elder Jiu heard this, he waved his hand and said, "Reinforcements? Impossible. According to my investigation, Xueqiu doesn't have a good relationship with several third-rank forces nearby. He even had a war with the nearby Black Fox Island. Impossible, impossible." Lu Li sneered and said, "Have you been a patriarch all these years for nothing? Are there eternal friends and enemies between forces? Idiot." The 9th elder was furious, but the 7th elder waved his hand and said, "Old 9, enough." Lu Li was right. There were no eternal friends or enemies between the forces, only eternal interests. This matter, let me think about it. The 7th patriarch calmed down and even closed his eyes. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, "Third Elder Lu, immediately take some people to the nearby lake area to investigate and see if there are any reinforcements." After Patriarch Lu heard this, he rushed into the water with several people and dived to all directions at the top of his speed. Patriarch 7's expressions became more solemn. He glanced over to the other patriarchs and said, "There is something wrong. Xueqiu is a strong-willed man. He will not give up the Blood Evil Island that he has fought so hard to conquer so easily. He is the kind of person who would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. There is something wrong. Maybe Lu Li is right. Patriarch 9 had been following Patriarch 7's lead. He was a bit flustered and asked, "Brother 7, what should we do now?" Patriarch 7 looked to Lu Li, who ignored him with his eyes closed. Lu Li continued to restore his physical strength and energy. Patriarch 7 thought about it and said, wait for Third Elder Lu to come back." The patriarchs sat with their legs crossed, their expressions solemn. The joy they had before was gone. They waited with uneasiness. After an hour, Patriarch Lu came back. He rushed to the battleship like a sharp sword. He went into the cabin dripping wet and said, "Something is wrong. There are 3 battleships coming from 15 miles to the north. I didn't dare to get closer, but there are many people on board." Swish, swish, swish. The patriarch's expressions changed. Even though the scouts from the other directions didn't come back, Lu Li's speculation had come true. Xueqiu was stalling for time and waiting for reinforcements. "Brother 7, what should we do?" Patriarch 9 and the others all looked at Patriarch 7, waiting for his decision. Lu Yi was the family patriarch, but now she was in a panic, let alone making decisions for the others. Patriarch 7 was hesitant. He glanced over everyone and said, "How about we go back to the Blood Dragon Island and defend till the end?" The Blood Dragon Island was covered with inhibition formations. In the smog, the green dwarfs were more lethal. If they could defeat the reinforcements invited by Xueqiu, the Lu family could at least defend the Blood Dragon Island and then make further plans. Idiot! Lu Li suddenly opened his eyes. His energy and physical strength were almost recovered. He glanced over to everyone coldly and said, "Only death awaits us if we go back. Since Xueqiu can invite reinforcements, he must have paid a huge price. If we don't destroy the Lu family, how can he recoup his losses? Even if we can defend against one wave of attacks, Xueqiu will definitely throw out all the assets of the Blood Evil Island and ask for more reinforcements. If he sends out 6 or 7 warriors of the Soul Pond realm, how can you defend?" But everyone looked at each other, not knowing whether to advance or retreat. Lu Li picked up his mighty heaven halberd and shouted coldly, "What are you waiting for? Now we have to kill our way into the Blood Evil Island and destroy the Blood Evil Brotherhood. As long as we can kill Xueqiu and the others before the reinforcements arrive and occupy the Blood Evil Island, we will send them back. How the reinforcements come, we will send them back." "Right." Patriarch 7 suddenly stood up. Lu Li's last words had enlightened him. As long as they could kill Xueqiu and the others and occupy the Blood Evil Island, they could come up with some conditions to negotiate with the nearby islands and have them retreat. Kill. Patriarch 7 gave the order to attack. All the patriarchs, including Lu Yi, showed determination on their faces. If they could not win this battle, the Blood Evil Island would be their burial ground. 2 battleships started to move closer to the Blood Evil Island. Including the Green Dwarfs, more than 120 people rushed towards the Blood Evil Fortress. Patriarch 7 ordered more than a dozen disciples of the Xian Wu realm to explore the way in the front, followed by Lu Li and a group of patriarchs. The 8 Green Dwarfs hid behind Lu Li and the others. The group rushed forward with strong killing intent. What Lu Li and the others did not know was that there was a golden chariot parked in the sky to the north of the Blood Evil Island. This chariot was the same as the ones in the battle at the Wu Ling County. The inhibition formation was activated. People on the ground could not see or feel it. "You are not that stupid." A lazy voice came from the chariot. There were only 2 people on the chariot. One was an enchanting beauty, and the other was a white-haired old man. If Lu Li and Lu Yi could see them, they would recognize them immediately. Madame Yen and Chief Steward Bai. When the battle at the Blood Evil Island started at dawn, the chariot had arrived. However, the inhibition formation was activated, so people on the ground could not notice it. Chief Steward Bai looked at the Lu family rushing towards the Blood Evil Island and then looked into the distance. He saw 3 black dots. His sparse eyebrows frowned and said, "Madam, it will be hard for Lu to win this fight." Chapter 127. Chief Steward Bai looked to the east and the south. He faintly saw some ripples. He hesitated for a bit and said, "How about I go down there and stop the warriors from the 3 islands?" "Stop what?" Madame Yen glanced at him coldly and said, "I told you a few days ago that the Bai family cannot get involved in the disputes of the Thousand-Island Lake. This is the rule set by our forefather." Chief Steward Bai naturally knew about this. He peeked at Madame Yen and mumbled, "I thought Madame came here to watch the fight just to help Lu." "You are wrong." Madame Yen waved one finger and said, "I will not help anyone. I am only here to verify one thing." "Oh, I get it. Madam, you want to make sure if Lu is a disciple of the Lu family?" Chief Steward Bai nodded and then asked, "What if Lu is? What should we do?" "Nothing." Madame Yen stroked the pet in her arms and shook her head. "Bai Fu, you must remember one thing. Rules are rules. Under no circumstances can a disciple of the Bai family break the rules. Only our forefather can." Swish, swish, swish. Down below, at the Blood Evil Island, a group of people had just rushed into the main road inside the island when arrows were shot out from the bushes on both sides. Several disciples of the Lu family at the front were hit in an instant. "Hoi!" Patriarch 7 and the others immediately flew up. They wielded their weapons and blocked off the arrows. They all knew that there were many hidden inhibition formations on the Blood Evil Island, but they didn't expect them to be so powerful. The arrows stopped after a while. However, more than 20 people of the Lu family were shot to death and more than 10 were wounded. Patriarch 7 ordered someone to send the wounded back with a gloomy face. This time, he and the other patriarchs took the lead. Otherwise, all the disciples of the Lu family would die. As expected, they walked forward for more than half a mile. Suddenly, the road in front of them was filled with thick smoke. They couldn't see anything clearly. Also, the smoke was colorful. Clearly it was poisonous. The Blood Evil Fortress was about half a mile ahead of them. The road was blocked. Reinforcements could arrive at any time. Patriarch 7 glanced over and said while clenching his teeth, "Go around." There was a dense forest on both sides of the road. Inside the forest, there were large trees that covered the sky, and thorns densely covered the ground. It was dark and gloomy. Who knew how many restrictions were set up inside and how many enemies were hiding inside? But now there was no other way out. The 7th elder took the lead and wielded his sharp earth-ranked profound weapon, hacking and slashing all the way as they advanced quickly. All the elders fanned out to protect the Xian martial realm martial artists behind them. Boom! An elder suddenly triggered a restriction, and a bolt of lightning struck down from the sky, causing the elder's entire body to emit green smoke. Fortunately, the elder dodged in time and was not struck in the head. Otherwise, he would have died on the spot. Patriarchs of the Lu family were all at the Spirit Sea realm. None of them were at the Soul Pond realm, so their perception was not strong. Many hidden inhibition formations could not be detected. Lu sighed helplessly and said in a low voice, "Little White, go ahead and explore the way." "Xiao." Little White sneaked out from Lu's sleeve. Lu followed Little White and said to Patriarch 7 and the others, "Follow me." "You can discover restrictions?" Patriarch 7 and the others looked at Lu with suspicion. Lu moved forward without saying anything. He would not be able to discover them, but he believed in Little White. In the bamboo hill of the Blood Dragon Island, Little White ran around every day, but it never once touched the inhibition formations outside the bamboo hill. Lu did not know how Little White did it. Could it avoid the inhibition formations nearby? But what could he do now? If all the Lu family warriors were dead before they reached the Blood Evil Brotherhood, then there would be no point in fighting. Little White was not fast. Its little nose was twitching, and its little eyes were looking around. It moved forward in a zigzagging way. However, after walking for dozens of feet, it did not touch any inhibition formations. Okay. Patriarch 7 and the others were relieved. They followed Luli closely and rushed forward. Something miraculous happened. Little White never stopped. It didn't touch any inhibition formations even after running for hundreds of feet. Naturally, it was safe for the others to follow it. Another hundreds of feet later, they saw a faint light in front of them. Everyone's spirits were boosted. At the same time, they secretly clenched their weapons. Their Xian energy glowed as they were ready to take action. Sure enough, after another 100 feet, they saw an open space in front of them through the dense wood. They could vaguely see some castles. They successfully made it through the woods and arrived at the Blood Evil Fortress. Little White, come back. Family Patriarch, follow me closely later? Luli asked Little White to sneak into his sleeve. He slowed down his steps and told Lu Yi. Lu Yi's combat ability was not good enough. Even though she had 3 green dwarfs with her, she could still die easily. It was because she was controlling 3 green dwarfs that she would become the target of the enemies. Lu Yi nodded. Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 had already rushed out. Lu Li's Xian energy glowed and he followed them closely. The open space outside was full of people. In front of them were groups of warriors of the Xian Wu realm and dozens of warriors of the Spirit Sea realm. Xueqiu, an old man and a middle-aged man stood at the back, ready to fight. Brother Shanhe, what is the meaning of this? Xueqiu held a huge axe in his hand and shouted with a murderous look on his face. Patriarch 7, however, said nothing. He waved his saber and shouted angrily, "Kill!" At this moment, there was no point in talking nonsense. It was meaningless to talk about righteousness. Winning was the way to go. Nearly 100 people rushed out like sharp swords. Everyone's faces were filled with murderous intent. This fight was related to the life and death of everyone in the Lu family. They must try their best. Kill! Xueqiu waved his hand. The more than 2,000 people in front of him unsheathed their weapons and charged towards the Lu family. Xueqiu and the other 2 didn't do anything. Their target was the 8 green dwarf. Their strategy was clear. They would let the more than 2,000 people stall the Lu family while they looked for a chance to kill the green dwarf. They could win this fight even without reinforcements. Attack! Lu Li and Lu Yi sent out the 8 green dwarfs at once. Otherwise, before they could kill Xueqiu and the others, all the warriors of the Lu family would die in battle. As soon as the green dwarfs moved out, a storm of blood started. Almost no one could stand up to the green dwarfs. They were too fast and their claws were too sharp. Often, the enemies would be killed before they could even attack them. Xueqiu and the others were dumbfounded. They had been looking for a chance to attack the green dwarfs. Now, the green dwarfs were shuttling back and forth among the Lu family, slaughtering everywhere. Unless they wanted to smash their own people to death, they could not attack the green dwarfs. Hoi! Lu Li swung his mighty heaven halberd with an unstoppable momentum. He released his bloodline skill at once. Relying on his horrifying strength and the sharpness of his weapon, he swept across the sky. Anyone that was hit by him would either be smashed away severely injured or be smashed to death. Similarly, Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 were also unbelievably fierce. Patriarch 7 could kill a warrior at the latter stage of the Spirit Sea realm with one move. Even Lu Li was surprised. However, he saw many patriarchs taking pellets in secret. He understood at once. It seemed like this group of elders were consuming elixirs. Furthermore, it wasn't just one type of elixir but several types of elixirs. Their speed, strength, and battle prowess were all greatly enhanced. This fight was of great significance to the Lu family. The Lu family had spent all their Xian crystals and bought many pellets. They were going to use all of them this time. Chapter 128. Xueqiu and the others were dumbfounded to see so many people being slaughtered. They thought they were sure to win this time. Little did they expect that things would turn out like this. The Blood Evil Island had Xian crystals, but they didn't think about buying those pellets that could increase combat abilities. Everyone on the Lu family's side took the pellets and their combat abilities soared. Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9's combat abilities could almost compare to warriors of the Soul Pond realm. It was too easy for them to kill warriors of the Spirit Sea realm. They could kill one in several moves. More importantly, the 8 green dwarfs were so ferocious. In the time it took for just half an incense stick to burn, at least 300 or 400 people had died in the claws of the green dwarfs. Lu Li, take this. Lu Yi had been following Lu Li closely. She threw him a bottle and said in a low voice, "There are 3 power pellets in there that can increase strength by 50% and 3 wind pellets that can double your speed. Take them as you see fit. But 1 pellet can only increase the time for 1 incense stick to burn." Good stuff, Lu Li exclaimed to himself. The pellets must be pricey. The Lu family must have put in a lot of money. He didn't need the pellets at the moment. Nobody could stand a chance against the mighty Heaven Halberd. Island owner, Chief Patriarch and Patriarch 4 of the Blood Evil Island were anxious. Seeing so many people being slaughtered, they looked at Xueqiu anxiously, waiting for his decision. The casualties were more than 500 or 600, but only more than a dozen died on the Lu family's side. Xueqiu clenched his teeth and said, "Wait a bit more. Reinforcements will be here soon." The green dwarfs were too ferocious. Once he rushed over and was killed by the green dwarfs, it would be pointless even if reinforcements arrived. It didn't matter if some warriors of the Blood Evil Island died. As long as they could win this fight, everything else would be fine. Xueqiu and the others didn't move. Lu Li and the others were surrounded and could not break out in a short time. Naturally, they couldn't attack Xueqiu and the other 2. Xueqiu and the other 2 were on guard. If they controlled the green dwarfs to attack, they could easily be killed by the 3, which would be troublesome. Therefore, even though Lu Li and Patriarch 7 were worried, they had to kill the warriors of the Blood Evil Island first. Blood was flying in the air. Broken limbs were flying everywhere. The badly wounded warriors were rolling on the ground and howling on the ground. The scene was so ghastly that one could not bear to look at it. Time flew on. Every second someone would die. Warriors of the Blood Evil Island were harvested in batches. The casualties of the Lu family began to increase. More than half of the Xian Wu realm warriors had been killed or injured. 4 Spirit Sea realm patriarchs died. Now there were only 7 patriarchs left. Bang, bang, bang! Suddenly, a series of muffled footsteps came from behind. It was obvious that countless people were rushing over. Patriarch 7 and the others' expressions changed drastically. The eyes of Xueqiu and the other 2 brightened up. Xueqiu roared, "The reinforcements have arrived! Kill Lu Li!" Patriarch 7 shouted as he killed one of the green dwarfs. Lu Li and Lu Yi understood what Patriarch 7 meant. Lu Li roared and controlled 5 green dwarfs to break out of the encirclement. Lu Yi controlled the other 3 green dwarfs to follow him closely. At the same time, Patriarch 7, Patriarch 9, and a few warriors of the Spirit Sea realm began to lead their warriors to break the siege, dashing towards Xueqiu and the other 2. Reinforcements had arrived. If they still could not kill Xueqiu and the other 2, they would be doomed eternally. Everyone would stay at the Blood Evil Island forever. Xueqiu and the other 2 no longer hesitated. The reinforcements had arrived. Naturally, they had to make their moves. Otherwise, why would the reinforcements do anything when they saw that they were not doing anything? After some observation, they had a good understanding of the ways of attack of the green dwarfs, so they were not so scared. The green dwarfs' fighting capacity could be compared to warriors of the Soul Pond realm. However, there was still a gap between them and real warriors of the Soul Pond realm, not to mention that Xueqiu and Patriarch 4 had been at the Soul Pond realm for years. Chief Patriarch was at the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm. It was the same logic. Even though Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 had taken pellets and their fighting capacity had been improved in a short time, there was still a huge gap between them and real warriors of the Soul Pond realm. The three of them didn't worry at all. Hiss hiss, the three of them released their Xian energy at the same time. All three of them released Xian energy that was like a ray of sword light. They shot out like three glowing wind blades, tearing the space apart and making a shrill noise. It was quite horrifying. However, none of the three rays of sword light were aimed at the green dwarf. Instead, they were aimed at Lu Li, Lu Yi and Patriarch 7. Xueqiu and the other two had seen it clearly. The green dwarfs were controlled by Lu Li and Lu Yi. As long as they could kill the two, the green dwarfs would be free and they would be safe. If they could destroy the jade talismans in Lu Li and Lu Yi's hands, it would be even better. Without the jade talismans, the green dwarfs would be completely out of control. They would either run away or kill at will. Both Lu Yi and Lu Li would attack. When Xueqiu stared at Lu Li was alerted at once. He quickly took out a wind pellet from his chest pocket and swallowed it. The pellet turned into a stream of heat that flowed through his body. Lu Li felt his body became very light. He kicked on the ground with one leg and dodged to the side like a gust of wind. Lu Yi didn't take any pellet. She just controlled a green dwarf to rush in front of her to help her block the strike. Patriarch 7 had been taking pellets, so his reaction was fast. He dodged at once. Boom, boom, boom. The three rays of sword light with Xian energy all hit the green dwarf. Green scales appeared on the bodies of the three green dwarfs. The scales were hit by the ray of sword light, and the green blood spilled out. The green dwarfs stepped back for dozens of feet. Even though they were wounded, they rushed forward again immediately. These green dwarfs were all implanted with soul worms and domesticated. Even if they were badly wounded, they would still rush forward without a care for their lives. The green dwarfs in front of them had already rushed forward. Xueqiu and the other two didn't have the chance to release their Xian energy anymore. The three of them picked up their weapons and started fighting. Lu Yi dared not to get closer. Patriarch 7 and Lu Li, on the other hand, ran over, looking for a chance to launch a sneak attack. The 8 green dwarfs were divided into 3 teams. The most powerful one, Chief Patriarch Lu Li, controlled 4 green dwarfs to besiege them. Xueqiu and Patriarch 4 sent 2 green dwarfs to besiege them. Bang! One had to admit that the Chief Patriarch of the Blood Evil Island was powerful. The weapon in his hand was a black iron rod. With one sweep, he smashed a green dwarf away. He turned around and swung again, and another green dwarf was smashed away. The reaction speed and perception of warriors at the Soul Pond realm were too strong. Before the green dwarfs got close, Chief Patriarch had already calculated their attack trajectories. He made his move in advance and easily smashed the green dwarfs away with his powerful strength. Xueqiu and Patriarch 4 were a bit weaker. Faced with the siege of 2 green dwarfs, they had to dodge and fight back at the same time. Even though they could manage it, they could not win in a short time. Kill! Lu Li and Patriarch 7 looked at each other. They rushed towards the Chief Patriarch of the Blood Evil Island at the same time. If they didn't make a move, the green dwarfs would have no chance to kill Chief Patriarch. On the off chance that Chief Patriarch could smash some green dwarfs to death, the Lu family would be completely defeated. Patriarch 9 also rushed over with 3 men. Without any hesitation, the 3 threw a pellet into their mouths and rushed towards Xueqiu and Patriarch 4 in groups of 2. They had the same idea as Lu Li and Patriarch 7. They tried their best to distract Xueqiu and Patriarch 4 for a moment so that the green dwarfs could have the chance to kill them. Bang! They were still too naive. Patriarch 7 had just rushed over and wanted to launch a sneak attack when he was smashed by the Chief Patriarch of the Blood Evil Island. He was smashed away in an instant. His left shoulder was bleeding, and his left hand was ruined in an instant. So ferocious? Lu Li, who was rushing over, was secretly shocked. Patriarch 7 had taken the pellet and could be compared to a warrior of the Soul Pond realm, but he was badly wounded in one move. Would Lu Li be smashed to death in one move? Chapter 129. Should he do it or not? This was a problem. Patriarch 7 was badly injured in one move. Lu Li's reaction speed was much slower than Patriarch 7's. If he did, he would definitely be smashed away. Whether he would be smashed to death or not was another question. Lu Li paused for only the time for one breath before he made up his mind. The Lu family was in a bad situation this time, but Lu Li never thought about running away. He knew that he was tied to the same boat with the Lu family. Without the Lu family, he would be like duckweed without root. It would be hard for him to survive at the Thousand Island Lake. He was comfortable staying at the Lu family. Nobody dared to mess with him. He helped the Lu family to earn Xian crystals, and the Lu family bought him endless pellets and resources. They provided him with a quiet environment to cultivate, which was what he needed. Actually, he thought about running away and going to Madame Yen for shelter, but he didn't trust her. His father, Lu Renhuang, had enemies at the northern desert. What if that enemy was the Bai family? Madame Yen was too nice to him, which made him feel uneasy. Subconsciously, he wanted to stay away from her. Therefore, he had to risk his life. Reinforcements were coming. If he didn't go, the Green Dwarfs would not be able to kill the chief patriarch of the Blood Evil Island. The battle would be lost. The Lu family would be destroyed, and he would die as well. He quickly took out a wind pellet and a power pellet and swallowed them. Then he rushed towards the chief patriarch like a leopard cat. The pellets melted in his mouth. A surge of power spread through his body. He became light and fast like the wind. Bang! The chief patriarch of the Blood Evil Island smashed a green dwarf away with his rod. Then he swung his rod that was more than 3 feet long and smashed at another green dwarf on his left. Lu Li's eyes lit up. He sped up and smashed at the back of the chief patriarch's head with his mighty heaven halberd. Even though the chief patriarch didn't look at Lu Li, it was as if he had eyes on the back of his head. He moved sideways for some distance and continued to smash at the green dwarf with his iron rod. The green dwarf was smashed away easily. The chief patriarch's iron rod didn't stop for a moment. It moved in an arc like a willow twig and smashed at Lu Li. His reaction is so fast. Lu Li thought that he could hit the chief patriarch with his halberd, but the chief patriarch dodged it easily. The chief patriarch's iron rod swept across. It was so fast that Lu Li had no time to dodge. Seeing that he was about to be hit, Lu Li thought quickly. He was struggling with himself. At this moment, he had 2 choices. The first was to use his halberd to block. The second was to ignore the Great Elder's iron rod and use his halberd to attack the Great Elder. Let's fight. Lu Li did not know how powerful a warrior at the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm was. Also, the chief patriarch's speed of changing his moves was too fast. Even if Lu Li could successfully block it, he would be hit by chief patriarch's follow-up attack. He gritted his teeth and ignored the Great Elder's attack. He raised the heaven-raising halberd and fiercely swept it towards the Great Elder's waist. He chose to fight with his life. Chief Patriarch showed a trace of mockery in his eyes. Lu Li wanted to make both of them suffer? He was quite sure that he could seriously injure Lu Li with this move. There was a high chance that he could kill Lu Li. Could Lu Li's halberd hurt him? He was wearing an 8th rank armor of the Earth grade. Lu Li couldn't kill him, could he? Chief Elder decided to continue attacking Lu Li because these green dwarfs were all under Lu Li's control. As long as Lu Li was smashed to death, the green dwarfs would lose control and the battle would be won. Hiss! The iron rod turned into shadows and smashed towards Lu Li's head. It was about to hit Lu Li's head. Even though Lu Li was wearing armor, he did not have a helmet. If he was hit, his brain would be squeezed out. At this moment of life and death, Lu Li reached out his other hand to protect his head. At the same time, he twisted his head to the side. He knew that the bones in his arm would be broken. But if the bones in his arm were not broken, his head would crack. Bang! The bones in Lu Li's arm were smashed into pieces in an instant. His arm was covered in blood. The huge iron rod smashed down along with the momentum, but Lu Li took the chance to move his head away. The iron rod landed on his left shoulder. The collarbone of his left shoulder was broken. However, Lu Li's halberd also landed on the waist of the chief patriarch of the Blood Evil Island. The horrifying strength passed through. There was a trace of shock and pain in the chief patriarch's eyes. He was smashed away. He never expected that Lu Li's strength could be so great. Boom! Both Lu Li and chief patriarch were smashed away. The difference was that Lu Li's arm and the collarbone of his left shoulder were broken, while Chief Patriarch was only smashed away. His spine was cracked and his internal organs were injured. Good! A shout came from the distance. Patriarch 7, half of his body covered in blood, rushed over like a ferocious tiger. He swung his long sword and stabbed at Chief Patriarch who was on the ground. At the same time, several green dwarfs rushed towards Chief Patriarch like lightning. Bang! Even though Chief Patriarch was injured and still on the ground, he was still brave. He swung his iron rod and smashed at Patriarch 7 who was in midair. Patriarch 7 was smashed away again. However, the 7th elder had achieved his goal this time. The 4 green dwarfs swarmed over, and 3 of the green dwarfs' sharp claws all grabbed the first elder. One of the claws grabbed his arm, and the other 2 grabbed his thigh. Chief Patriarch's armor could only protect his upper body. His arms and thighs were not protected. How sharp were the claws of the green dwarfs! One of Chief Patriarch's arms and legs was destroyed, and his bones were broken. Poof! Patriarch 7 was smashed away and spat out some blood. He crawled up and was overjoyed to see Chief Patriarch of the Blood Evil Island rolling on the ground because of the pain. He spat out some blood and laughed. Lu Li, well done. Are you okay? Lu Li was smashed away as well. Half of his body was covered in blood, and he could not feel his left arm. Due to the pain, the muscles on his face were twisted. However, seeing Chief Patriarch rolling on the ground, Lu Li managed to put on a smile and shouted, "Don't attack this old man. Go and kill the other 2. Chief Patriarch's legs were broken, so he was no longer a threat. As long as Xuecho and Patriarch 4 were killed, the Lu family still had hope of winning. The 4 green dwarfs were all injured. One of them even had its leg broken. Hearing Lu Li's order, they rushed towards Xuecho and the others without any hesitation. Xuecho and Patriarch 4 secretly complained. Patriarch 9 and the others were already under more pressure. Now that the 4 green dwarfs were here, their situation was even more worrisome. Swish, swish, swish. However, in the next second, teams of people rushed over from the distance. Xuecho and Patriarch 4's eyes glowed. Reinforcements had finally arrived. On the road leading to the island, hundreds of people swarmed over. Clearly, they were from 3 forces. The hundreds of people were wearing armors of different colors and were divided into 3 phalanxes. 3 warriors of the Soul Pond realm? Lu Yi looked back and her expressions changed. There were 3 warriors of the Soul Pond realm and nearly 100 warriors of the Spirit Sea realm. How could the Lu family fight against them with such a small number of people? One of the 3 teams wore blue armors, 1 black armors, and 1 purple armors. The 3 leaders of the Soul Pond realm glanced over the situation on the field. They were all surprised. They all knew that the Blood Evil Island was at war with a second-rank family, the Lu family. But they didn't expect that the battle would be so tragic. Xuecho, your Blood Evil Island is so useless. The leader of the purple-armored force, a middle-aged warrior of the Soul Pond realm, sneered and said, "You have been reduced to such a state by your own affiliated family. Xuecho, have you wasted all these years? There were some warriors of the Blood Evil Island among the 3 teams. Shwebugue was among them. Just now, Shwebugue was not on the island. He must have gone out to ask for help. Hearing the mocking words of the middle-aged man, Shwebugue's expression turned gloomy. He said with dissatisfaction, "Crazy Liu, we asked you here to help, not to ridicule us. Do it now. We will fulfill our promise as soon as the battle is over." Chapter 130. The other 2 forces didn't do anything either. They just looked on indifferently. Shwecho and Patriarch 4 were besieged by a group of green dwarfs, suffering unspeakably. Hearing this, Shwecho was enraged. He secretly cursed the idiot Shwebugue. How could he still provoke Madman Liu under such circumstances? Shwecho forced Patriarch 9 back with one swing of his axe and kicked away a green dwarf. He turned around to Madman Liu and shouted, "Brother Liu, my son is not sensible. Do it now." Madman Liu smiled. He shrugged his shoulders and said, "We can do it, but you must double the reward. Otherwise we will go back." "That's right, double. If you don't, we will go." The leaders of the other 2 forces also shouted. The fact that the 3 forces didn't do anything right away was clearly to get more benefit. Shwecho and the others were in a precarious situation. They would be idiots if they didn't extort money. Shwecho was trembling with anger. His arm was accidentally grabbed by a green dwarf. He shouted in rage, "Double it is fine. Do it now." Luli had just taken a healing pellet. He thought of something and said, "My friends, if you help us, we will give you 3 times the reward that Shwecho is offering." Lu-Yi came to her senses. She quickly added, "Yes, yes. Seniors, as long as you help the Lu family, we will give you 3 times what the Blood Evil Island is offering." Shwecho, Shwebugue and the others were so angry that they almost spat out blood. On the other hand, Madman Liu and the others were overjoyed. Madman Liu laughed and said, "Shwecho, did you hear that? Someone offered a high price. Who do you think we are helping?" Shwecho suppressed his anger and shouted, "3 times it is. We will offer 3 times. Do it now." "Okay, do it." Madman Liu waved his hand. Teams of purple-armored warriors rushed out. The other 2 forces also made their move. 3 warriors of the Soul Pond realm rushed towards Luli like a gust of wind. They wanted to help kill the green dwarf. 10 times. Luli shouted. He managed to stand up and shouted while clenching his teeth, "Lords, we will offer 10 times the reward. Help us kill Shwecho." Hiss! What responded to Luli was a ray of sword light. Madman Liu's sword light shot out from his sword and hit Luli's chest. Bang! Luli's earth-grade armor cracked layer by layer. His chest was badly mutilated and he was smashed away for dozens of feet. Madman Liu flew over and sneered, "Do you take us for fools? Can a small second-rank family like you afford 10 times the reward? Besides, are we the kind of people who forsake morality at the sight of profit?" "It's over," Luli murmured in despair. With the help of 3 warriors of the Soul Pond realm, 2 green dwarfs were killed in an instant. The situation was irreversible. At this moment, all the warriors of the Lu family looked desperate. The 3 forces obviously didn't believe them. Even if they offered 100 times the reward, the 3 parties wouldn't even consider it. Today, no one from the Lu clan would be able to escape. "He still hasn't used his bloodline divine skill?" Up in the sky, Madame Yen was surprised. She murmured, "Is Luli not a disciple of the Lu family? Otherwise, why hasn't he used the mystic armor divine skill?" When a man was forced to a dead end, he would not hide his power. If Luli had the King Kong bloodline of the Lu family, he would have released it now. Chief Steward Bai frowned and asked, "Madam, could it be that Luli failed to awaken his bloodline?" "Not every disciple of the Lu family can awaken the King Kong bloodline." "Impossible," Madame Yen said with certainty. Lu Renhuang is a disciple of the immediate Lu family, and he is at the human sovereign realm. How can his son fail to awaken his bloodline? For the past 100 years, no disciple of the Lu family has ever failed to awaken his bloodline. Chief Steward Bai said nothing. He was scolded several times, so he didn't dare to say that he would save Lu Li anymore. He knew that once Madame Yen made up her mind, she would not change her mind. Even if Lu Li were to die, Madame Yen would not do anything. Okay, he is here. Madame Yen suddenly looked to the northwest and said, "We will be able to tell later whether Lu Li is a disciple of the Lu family or not." Chief Steward Bai looked to the northwest and saw a black dot getting bigger and bigger. He exhaled and said, "He finally made it. All of you, stop. Otherwise I will kill you." A shocking roar suddenly came from the northwest. The roar was even more horrifying than Lu Rufeng's Heaven's Thunder roar at the Wuling County. It was like the roar of a beast king in the ice abyss. All the warriors on the ground felt their chi and blood tumbling, their eardrums stinging, and their hearts palpitating. The warriors fighting on the ground stopped out of instinct. The one who could make such a horrifying sound must be a powerful warrior. If such a powerful warrior were angered, they would die without a burial place. Xueqiu, Madman Liu and the others stopped fighting at once. Patriarch 7 and the others were scared out of their wits. They quickly told Lu Li and Lu Yi. Lu Li and Lu Yi controlled the green dwarfs to stop at once. Everyone looked to the northwest in fear, but all they could see was a black dot. Even though that man was still more than 30 miles away, a surge of chi and energy that made everyone feel suffocated spread over. It was as if the sky was going to collapse. What is going on? Lu Li and the others blinked their eyes. Xueqiu and the others were also on tenterhook. Who was it? Why would such a powerful warrior interfere in the dispute between forces of their level? It was getting closer, getting closer. The black dot in the northwest was getting bigger and bigger. Warriors of the Soul Pond realm had good eyesight, so they could vaguely see the man. Xueqiu and the others took a closer look and said in surprise, "It is him? What is he doing here? Don't go crazy or we'll all be finished." Swish, the black dot in the distance was getting closer and closer. Lu Li could vaguely see it. However, he did not see the man clearly. Instead, he saw a huge red lion, a lion with wings. The lion was bigger than the average one. Its fur was red, as if there was a raging fire burning all over its body. There were 2 red wings on its back, but the lion's eyes were purple. There was a ferocious chi and energy emitting from it, making people feel depressed and instinctive fear. Purple-eyed fire lion. Someone shouted in surprise. Then he added, "It is the leader of the 5 freaks of the Thousand Island Lake, Lord Mingyu. Be careful. We will all die if we offend him." Lord Mingyu? Lu Yi and Patriarch 7 seemed to have heard of this man. Only Lu Li was confused. He had been busy with cultivation and paid no attention to the outside world. It was normal that he didn't know. As a matter of fact, not many people of the Thousand Island Lake didn't know about this man. The reason why he could be recognized so easily was that there was only one purple-eyed fire lion in the Thousand Island Lake. This man was one of the famous 5 freaks of the Thousand Island Lake, and he was ranked number 1. Many people were restless. They didn't even dare to move. Since he was called one of the 5 freaks, this man's character must be weird. Mingyu was also a well-known weirdo at the Thousand Island Lake. Too many people died in his hands. If anyone dared to anger him, the Blood Evil Island would be annihilated in an instant. The purple-eyed fire lion should be a Xian beast of a high rank. It was fast. In the time for more than a dozen blinks, the purple-eyed fire lion had flown to the sky above the Blood Evil Island. Everyone's eyes were fixed on a cold-looking man standing on the back of the purple-eyed fire lion. This man seemed to be in his 30s or 40s. He carried a silver sword on his back. His clothes were as white as snow. Even his hair was white. His face was handsome, but his expression was cold, giving people a feeling of coldness. He looked up to the sky as if he could feel the presence of Madame Yen and Chief Steward Bai. However, he looked away after just one look. Then he jumped down from the sky and landed in front of the blood-evil fortress in an instant. Then, under the shocked gazes of many people, he got down on one knee to Lu Li, who was about 10 feet in front of him. He bowed and said in a deep voice, "Mingyu, please forgive me for being late." Chapter 131. The Northern Desert was a large place with hundreds of millions of people and countless warriors. However, almost all the warriors at the Northern Desert were attached to some families or forces to cultivate. Without a family or force, there would be no resources. No matter how talented one was, without resources, one could not become a powerful warrior. The Spirit Sea realm required a large number of pellets to assist in cultivation. The Soul Pond realm required numerous soul-related elixirs. The Fate Wheel realm required countless mystical materials. Otherwise, one could not build a Fate Wheel. Without the support of a family or force, how could one obtain so many resources on his own? Even if one were to go to the great wilderness every day and risk his life to explore small worlds, how many mystical materials and treasures could he get? What was more, a warrior would be running around for mystical materials and treasures, thinking about earning Xian crystals. How could he have time to cultivate? How could he become a powerful warrior? Therefore, almost all the powerful warriors at the Northern Desert came from big families or forces. Few could become powerful warriors by themselves. Mingyu was an exception. The 5 freaks of the Thousand Island Lake were all lone warriors. They never joined any family or force. They didn't build their own families or forces. They traveled alone and relied on themselves. What was more, they all became powerful warriors. Mingyu was famous at the Thousand Island Lake. He was the leader of the 5 freaks. He was powerful, cruel, and eccentric. He was neither good nor evil. More importantly, Mingyu was the only one who refused the Bai family's invitation and survived. There was once an incident that shocked the entire Thousand Island Lake. Mingyu refused a lady of the Bai family in public, which led to the lady's suicide out of grief and indignation. This incident was already shocking enough. What was more, the Bai family didn't send out any powerful warriors to kill Mingyu. The reaction was even bigger. Mingyu's name was spread across the Thousand Island Lake. At this moment, the famous weirdo of the Thousand Island Lake was kneeling to a warrior of the Lu family? And calling him young master? What did young master mean? It meant that Lu Li's father was Mingyu's master and Mingyu was Lu Li's servant. How could people not be shocked? How could they not be shocked? Xuechou and the others were dumbfounded. Madman Liu and the others were twitching their mouths. Lu Yi, Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 stared with their eyes wide open. Even Lu Yi, who had known Lu Li for a long time, found it ridiculous, let alone Xuechou and the others. Lu Yi knew Lu Li's information very well. He grew up in the Dilong tribe. His parents were missing and his grandpa died a tragic death. He was bullied and humiliated in the tribe. He was just an average citizen of a small tribe. Now, a very powerful warrior was calling Lu Li his young master? Didn't that mean that Lu Li had a very strong background? If Lu Li had a powerful background, would he have been bullied in the Dilong tribe for more than a decade? Lu Li was also a bit confused. However, he did not find it unacceptable because his father was Lu Renhuang, a cultivator at the Renhuang Plain. Wasn't it normal for a Renhuang realm cultivator to have several servants? No matter what the situation was, Lu Li reacted quickly. Since there was a free fighter, he would be an idiot if he didn't use it. He immediately shouted, "You came just in time. Kill all the warriors of the Blood Evil Island for me." Whoosh, 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 many people's faces turned as pale as paper. Xuechou's lips trembled. He said in a trembling voice, "Lord Mingyu, are you mistaken? How can he be your young master? Xuecho didn't get to finish his words because Mingyu stood up and looked at him coldly. At that moment, Xuecho felt he was being stared at by a Xian beast of the 5th or 6th rank. He felt cold and numb. He didn't dare to move a bit. Mingyu glanced to Madman Lu and the others and said coldly, "You are not from the Blood Evil Island. Get out." Whoosh! Madman Lu and the others rushed out of the island like frightened rabbits without any hesitation. They didn't stop for even 1 second. Cold sweat ran down their backs and foreheads. They felt lucky that Mingyu had come early. Otherwise, if they killed Lu Li, all 3 forces would be doomed. Xuecho and the others were stunned. Xuecho and Patriarch 4 looked at each other and dropped to their knees. Xuecho said to Lu Li eagerly, "Young man, no. Lord, we have eyes but failed to see. We are wrong. Please spare our lives. From now on, the Blood Evil Island will listen to your orders." Xuecho had to lower his head. He didn't even want to fight with Mingyu. Mingyu was ranked 9th on the warlord list of the Thousand Island Lake. He was a powerful warrior of the Eternal Realm. Lu Li shouted without any hesitation, "Kill them!" Clank, clank, Mingyu unsheathed the long sword on his back. He swung it and a crescent-shaped ray of sword light shot out. Xuecho and Patriarch 4 didn't see it clearly before the ray of sword light hit their neck. 2 heads flew away and they died on the spot. Whoosh, whoosh! Mingyu turned into a blur and rushed into the middle of the warriors of the Blood Evil Island. No one could see him clearly. They could only see a blur. After the shadows passed by, heads flew away one after another. They were harvested like rice in a paddy field. "So fierce!" Lu Li exclaimed. Because he had touched his wound by talking, he was trembling in pain. Cold air came out of his mouth. Lu Yi glanced over and walked over in a hurry to feed him a healing pellet. She thought about it and whispered to Lu Li, "Lu Li, I feel that some powerful warriors are checking us with psychic power." "More powerful warriors?" Lu Li frowned. He asked in a low voice, "Which realm?" "I don't know." Lu Yi explained. "Those that can send out psychic power are at least of the Eternal Realm." Lu Li understood, and said nothing more. He stared at Mingyu who was still collecting head. Many thoughts flashed through his mind as he tried to come up with all kinds of possibilities. Whoosh! In the time for half an incense stick to burn, Mingyu appeared in front of Lu Li in a shadow. He said coldly, "Young master, all the warriors of the Blood Evil Island have been killed." Lu Li was still deep in his thoughts when he was alerted. He looked around and gasped out of instinct. He looked to Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 and saw that they were all frightened. They were looking at Mingyu as if he was a demon. Nearly 1,000 people. There were at least 1,000 warriors of the Blood Evil Island left, but they were all killed by Mingyu in the time for half an incense stick to burn. None of them could move. They could only watch as they were killed. Most importantly, nearly 1,000 heads had been chopped off. Some heads were rolling on the ground, their eyes wide open. Nearly 1,000 headless bodies were lying on the ground. Many of them were still spilling out blood. Even Patriarch 7 and the others who were used to killing found it hard to accept. The 5 freaks of the Thousand Island Lake were strange indeed. They only chopped off heads and didn't leave the bodies intact. This is a murderous demon. Lu Yi moved closer to Lu Li in fear. Lu Li didn't mind. What mattered was how they died. Did it matter if their bodies were intact or not? He was the one who gave the order to kill the warriors of the Blood Evil Island. "Young master." Seeing that Lu Li didn't say anything, Mingyu asked again, "Who else do we need to kill? Do we need to kill all the 3 groups?" Swish, swish, swish. Many people looked at Lu Li. At that moment, in the eyes of Patriarch 7 and the others, Lu Li had become the King of Hell. When he threw out the King of Hell's order, many heads would fall to the ground. Lu Li raised his other hand, touched his nose embarrassedly, looked at Mingyu and said something that almost made the Lu family people vomit blood. "What? Lord Mingyu, I just gave the order casually. I don't know you and I am not your young master. My father is only at the spirit sea realm. How can he be your master? P.S. That's it. Good night, everyone. Chapter 132. When Mingyu arrived, he knelt to Lu Li and said, "Greetings, young master." Lu Li accepted it calmly and then said, "You are just in time. Kill all the warriors of the Blood Evil Island." At that moment, everyone thought that Lu Li really was Mingyu's young master. Lu Li must have a powerful background. Otherwise, how could he give the order to Mingyu to kill so calmly? Now that the warriors were killed, Lu Li said that he was not Mingyu's young master and that the order was just a random one? How could they not be speechless and feel ridiculous? After the absurdity, everyone felt chills running down their spines. If Lu Li was not Mingyu's young master, then Mingyu would feel that he was being deceived and used. Then the ending that awaited them would be miserable. Mingyu was stunned as well. After some thoughts, he waved his hand and said, "Everyone, get out of the island." "Yes, Lord. Everyone, get out." Patriarch 7 and the others acted as if they had heard the Buddha's voice. They quickly asked their disciples to carry the injured and help them walk out of the island. Lu Yi looked at Lu Li with concern. Lu Li threw some tokens to Lu Yi and asked her to take the green dwarfs away. Lu Li put on a brave face as if he was ready to face the wrath of Mingyu. In the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, all the warriors of the Lu family had left. There were still some people in the Blood Evil Fortress, but who dared to come with Mingyu here? Mingyu looked around. After making sure that nobody was around, he squeezed out a smile and said, "Young master, don't lie to me. I have looked into your information. Your father is Lu Renhuang. I owe him a lot and I have sworn to follow him. There are no outsiders now. Don't worry. I will not leak any information." Lu Li was confused. He nodded and said, "My father is indeed Lu Renhuang. But my sister said that he was only at the spirit sea realm. I was bitten to death by a third-rank Xian beast when I was born. How could he have done you a favor?" "Lu Renhuang? Not Lu Renhuang?" Mingyu's smile froze. He asked with a frown, "Third-rank Xian beast? Are you sure? Your father is a powerful warrior of the human sovereign realm." "I am sure," Lu Li said with certainty. "Many people in the Delong tribe know that my parents went missing the year I was born. My grandpa told my sister that my parents were bitten to death by a powerful third-rank Xian beast. Grandfather brought the experts of the tribe to take revenge, but they were all killed by the dark beasts. You can ask the people of the Delong tribe about this." Lu Li's words were half true and half false. He told a big lie. Lu Renhuang became Lu Renhuang and the human sovereign realm became the spirit sea realm. Lu Renhuang didn't die, but Lu Li said he was bitten to death by Xian beasts. All of this was because of Lu Yi's words. Lu Yi said that there was an expert hiding in the vicinity. This caused him to be extremely vigilant. With Mingyu's strength, how could he not know that there were experts nearby? Even Lu Yi could sense his divine will, so it was impossible that Mingyu couldn't. Since that was the case, why did Mingyu allow that expert to hide nearby? There were only 2 explanations. Either this person was on the same side as Mingyu, or Mingyu knew of this person but pretended not to know. Mingyu was one of the 5 freaks of the Thousand Island Lake, and he was a loner. Lu Li ruled out the first possibility. In that case, Mingyu must have known that there were people lurking around, but he pretended not to know. Why would he do this? Also, since Mingyu was indebted to his father, why did Mingyu not come to him until now? Lu Li's information was easy to find. At least after the incident at the Wu Ling County, his information must have attracted many people's attention. Lu Li had been at the Blood Dragon Island for so long, but Mingyu never showed up. Instead, he showed up at the most critical moment? All of this made Lu Li suspicious. Lu Ling once said that his father had a powerful enemy at the northern desert and asked him not to reveal his identity. The year when Lu Li was born, Lu Renhuang fought against a powerful enemy and killed them. How powerful must a person be to be regarded as a powerful enemy by Lu Renhuang, who was at the human sovereign realm? Therefore, Lu Li made up his mind in a short time just now. He would not reveal his identity, and would never admit that he was Lu Renhuang's son. He was afraid that Mingyu was sent by Lu Renhuang's enemy to get information about Lu Renhuang. Lu Li was afraid that after that enemy learned that Lu Renhuang was at the ice abyss, they would try their best to kill his father. Hearing Lu Li's words, Mingyu frowned again. Suddenly, he looked at Lu Li's neck and asked, "Have you awakened any bloodline?" Lu Li was even more alarmed. He shook his head firmly and said, "Lord, I once went to the temple at the Wu Ling County to try, but I failed. Many people know about this. Also, I don't have a bloodline mark. You should know that at my realm, I cannot hide it." Lu Li's lie was flawless. He really didn't have a bloodline mark on his neck. At his realm, he couldn't hide it in his body. It is impossible. How can a disciple of the Lu family fail to awaken his bloodline? Mingyu murmured. He suddenly remembered something. A ring on his hand glowed and a jade talisman appeared in his hand like a magic trick. He handed the jade talisman to Lu Li and said, "This is a jade talisman given to me by my benefactor. There is a trace of his bloodline in it. If you are the son of my benefactor, your bloodline will resonate and it will glow. Try pouring Xian energy into it." Buzzing, on the golden chariot in midair, Madame Yen and Chief Steward Bai's eyes glowed. They had come all the way here just to confirm Lu Li's identity. Now that Mingyu took out a jade talisman of Lu Renhuang, the answer would be revealed. Lu! Lu Li saw a Lu character written in bold calligraphy on the jade talisman. It was exactly the same as the one Lu Ling took out years ago. Lu Li's mind was in turmoil. He thought quickly and was struggling with himself whether he should take the jade talisman or not. In the end, he took over the jade talisman with his teeth clenched. He poured Xian energy into the jade talisman. He thought to himself that if the jade talisman glowed and Mingyu asked about Lu Renhuang's whereabouts, Lu Li would never admit it. The worst that could happen was death. Something strange happened. Lu Li poured Xian energy into the jade talisman, but it didn't glow. It didn't even change. Both Lu Li and Mingyu were surprised as they stared at the jade talisman. Then Mingyu said again, unwilling to give up, "Try again?" Lu Li put his mind at ease. Xian energy surged out, but the jade talisman still showed no reaction. Mingyu grabbed the jade talisman and looked it over carefully. Then he stared at Lu Li's neck indifferently. He shook his head with sadness in his eyes and said, "So it is just a coincidence." Alas, with that said, Mingyu turned around and kicked on the ground with one leg. He flew up to the sky and stood on the back of the huge purple-eyed fire lion. The lion turned into a streak of red light and shot off into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. It is not? In midair, Madame Yan's eyes dimmed down. Chief Steward Bai pouted and murmured, "What a waste of effort! Let's go." Madame Yen waved her hand. The golden chariot flew away quietly. Ever since Mingyu left, Madame Yen never looked at Lu Li again. Neither did Chief Steward Bai. How come it didn't glow? Lu Li on the ground was confused. His mind was occupied with this question. Was there something wrong with the jade talisman? Or was it that he was not Lu Renhuang's son? Chapter 133. He left. Patriarch 7 and the others were all on the battleships outside the island. As for the warriors of the Killer's Island, the Devil Island and the Black Fox Island, they were nowhere to be seen. After Mingyu left, Lu Yi rushed towards the Blood Evil Fortress at once, trying to make sure whether Lu Li was alive or not. When she saw Lu Li standing where he was with confusion in his eyes, Lu Yi put on a big smile. Patriarch 7 and the others ran over as well. They were also overjoyed. Mingyu had left, which meant that they were safe. Whether Lu Li was the young master of Ming Yu or not, they were safe now. All the warriors of the Blood Evil Island were killed. The three forces of the Killer's Island were scared off. They had won. The Lu family had survived. Patriarch 7 walked to Lu Li at once and asked, "Lu Li, what is going on? Are you the young master of Lord Ming Yu or not?" Lu Li touched his nose. He didn't say anything. He just took a healing pellet and sat down with his legs crossed. He casually said, "Don't worry about this. Deal with the aftermath first." Seeing Lu Li's indifferent expression, everyone was relieved. Patriarch 7 asked the uninjured patriarchs to deal with the aftermath. There were still many people in the Blood Evil Fortress. Family members of the Blood Evil Brotherhood were all there. What if there were warriors lurking around? The fight was brutal. Many of the Lu family lost their lives. Of the more than 100 warriors that came, only less than half were left. There were only 5 green dwarfs left, and all of them were wounded. Patriarch 7, Patriarch 9 and many other patriarchs were badly injured. Several patriarchs of the Spirit Sea realm died, however. Almost all the warriors of the Blood Evil Island were killed. At this moment, the Lu family had the absolute advantage. 3 patriarchs and Lu Yi rushed towards the Blood Evil Fortress with the 5 green dwarfs. The remaining nearly 100 warriors were all killed at once. The rest of the family members were shivering in fear, living in a state of panic. What came next was easy. All the family members of the Blood Evil Island were locked up. Warriors of the Lu family went to the tribes of the Blood Evil Island and gathered a group of able-bodied men to bury the corpses, wash the blood, treat the wounded, and so on. After a busy day, by nightfall, all the aftermath work was taken care of. Nothing happened during the day. All the Lu family disciples were excited. If nothing went wrong, the Blood Evil Island would belong to the Lu family. All the warriors of the Blood Dragon Island were brought to the Blood Evil Island and lived in the Blood Evil Fortress. That night, none of the disciples of the Lu family slept. Some were healing their wounds, and some were keeping watch. The group of people was extremely excited. Nothing happened that night. The people of the Lu family were even more excited. It seemed that Ming Yu's reputation had awed all the nearby forces. Nobody dared to attack the Blood Evil Island. From now on, this island would be the territory of the Lu family. When teams of patrolling warriors passed by the stone castle where Lu Li lived, their steps were lighter and their expressions were more respectful. Not only was Lu Li their savior, but he was also the hope for the future development of the Lu family. The young master of Ming Yu, how honorable was that! The next day, the 7th elder and the others recuperated for a while. Their injuries had recovered a little, and they dragged their injured bodies and began to busy themselves. The Lu family gathered 3,000 strong men from each tribe and also found some warriors of the Xian Wu realm to form 6 armies. Each troop was led by 5 warriors of the Lu family. This way they could completely control the troop. The Blood Evil Island had more than 100,000 civilians, but there were very few warriors of the Xian Wu realm. At the Thousand Island Lake, it was quite common for forces to fight. The natives didn't care who the island owner was. As long as no one was killed, they wouldn't put up much resistance. They would cooperate and obey orders. With the 3,000 people, it was more convenient to do things. The Lu family could spare some men to occupy more than a dozen small islands nearby and completely rule the Blood Evil Island. Those small islands were all affiliated to the Blood Evil Island. There weren't many powerful warriors. Patriarch 7 took several green dwarfs with him. At the same time, he raised the head of Xueqiu. All of them surrendered. 2 of the islands belonged to the branches of the Xue family. They were easily killed by the green dwarfs. In just one day, the Blood Evil Island had a new owner. The Blood Evil Island had become the territory of the Lu family. As long as the nearby forces didn't attack and the Goddown Island recognized the status of the Lu family, everything would be perfect. Lu Li was still healing. He shut himself in the stone castle alone. 2 days had passed, but he still couldn't figure out many questions. For example, why didn't the jade talisman glow? Mingyu had determined that he was not the son of Lu Renhuang. Why didn't he kill him? Also, how did Mingyu know that he was at the Blood Evil Island? Who was the expert lurking in the vicinity? There were too many questions he couldn't figure out. 2 days had passed. Lu Li's uneasiness had calmed down. If Mingyu wanted to kill him, he would have done so earlier. Since he didn't come back and that powerful warrior didn't show up, at least for the time being, Lu Li would be safe. There must be a way out when the time comes. Life must go on. After healing for 2 days, Lu Li's condition was better. He asked someone to get him a clean robe. He got up and took a bath to wash off the extravasated blood on his body. Then he asked someone to prepare food. After a while, Lu Yi walked in with several people behind her. She brought a table full of delicious food. Lu Yi asked someone to put the food down and close the door. Then she looked at Lu Li, who was eating, and said, "Lu Li, are you really the young master of Mingyu or not?" Lu Li had thought a lot these 2 days. He had a plan in mind. He casually said, "Tell everyone in the Lu family about this. Nobody can ask about it or talk about it. Especially if outsiders ask, just say you don't know and let them ask me." Lu Yi blinked in confusion. Seeing that Lu Li didn't look at her or say anything, she nodded and said, "Okay, I will go out and tell everyone." Lu Yi went out and told Patriarch 7 and the others. Patriarch 7's eyes lit up. Lu Li didn't want to talk about it. Did it mean that there was something hidden? Did it mean that Lu Li really had something to do with Mingyu? Otherwise, why didn't Mingyu kill him? Once this was confirmed, the patriarchs of the Lu family were overjoyed. With Mingyu's reputation, who dared to offend the Lu family? Who dared to attack the Blood Evil Island? Report, while everyone was still immersed in joy, a panicked voice came from outside. A scout of the Lu family rushed in and said in terror, "Patriarchs, there are 3 ships coming from the south." Patriarch Lu said there is a warrior of the Soul Pond realm on each ship. It is very likely that they are from the Killer's Island, the Devil Island and the Black Fox Island. When Patriarch 7 and the others heard the news, their faces turned pale. Patriarch 7 thought about it and said while clenching his teeth, "Bring everyone and the green dwarfs with you. Let's go to the dock and have a look." Lu Yi hurriedly walked towards Lu Li's stone fort. When Lu Li learned the news, he waved his hand and asked Lu Yi to go to the dock by herself. He also told Lu Yi that if anyone wanted to see him, she would not see them. Just say that he was healing and that Lu Yi and the others could deal with it themselves. He also told them not to divulge the conversation between Lu Li and Mingyu. Lu Yi walked out, not really understanding. She went to the dock with Patriarch 7 and the others. There were 3 battleships in front of the dock. They approached slowly and stopped when they were more than 1,000 feet away from the dock. A warrior of the Spirit Sea realm flew over, landed on the dock and said with a smile, "Greetings, everyone. The 3 island owners of the Killer's Island, the Ghost Fox Island and the Devil Island want to see island owner Lu. Please explain the misunderstanding that happened and apologize." Lu Yi's eyes lit up. She understood what Lu Li meant at once. Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 looked at each other. They were relieved and smiled. Chapter 134. Island Owner Lu? The disciples of the Lu family were confused. When did Lu Li become the island owner? Shouldn't the family patriarch Lu Yi be the island owner? Patriarch 7 reacted quickly. Without hesitation, he waved his hand and said, "Someone, go and tell island owner Lu that the island owners of the Killer's Island, the Devil Island and the Black Fox Island are here to see him." Lu Li was a signboard. No matter what the relationship between him and Mingyu was, at least the outside world would think that he was the young master of Mingyu. If Patriarch 7 didn't know how to make use of this identity, he would have lived his life in vain. Patriarch 7 knew Lu Li's character. He never liked to fight for power or get involved in the business of the Lu family. Even if Lu Li was the island owner, he wouldn't care about anything. Patriarch 9 and the others came to their senses. Patriarch 7 winked at Patriarch 9. The other patriarchs started to send messages secretly, telling them that no information about Lu Li could be leaked. Otherwise they would be killed. As long as the Lu family didn't leak the information, the outside world would think that Lu Li was the young master of Mingyu. Then the Blood Evil Island would be safe. Who dared to offend the Blood Evil Island at the risk of being hunted down by Mingyu? After a while, the messenger came back and said something to Patriarch 7 in a low voice. Patriarch 7 looked at the messengers of the 3 islands indifferently and said, "Our island owner Lu said that he is treating his wounds and will not see any guests. He will remember the kindness of the 3 islands. In the future, he will go to the 3 islands to thank you handsomely." The messenger's face turned pale. He cupped his fists and reported Lu Li's words. On the 3 battleships, the island owners of the 3 islands were all frightened. Treating his wounds? That day, Madman Liu had smashed Lu Li, almost killing him. Kindness? Reward? Clearly, he was being sarcastic. The 3 island owners gathered together and had a discussion. Then they sent several messengers to the dock with 6 boxes of treasures. They said some nice words and left the treasures, saying that they were some medicines for Lu Li to treat his wounds. The messengers also said that after the 3 island owners went back, they would find the rest of the elixirs and send them to the Blood Evil Island so that Lu Li could recover. After Patriarch 7 heard the words of the messenger, he reluctantly asked someone to accept the gift. He casually said some words, indicating that he would convey their words to Lu Li. As for what Lu Li would think, Patriarch 7 did not know. The messengers went back. The 3 island owners were relieved. At least the Blood Evil Island accepted their gift. There was still room for negotiation. The 3 island masters thought for a moment, then personally went to the dock to persuade the 7th elder and the others. Patriarch 7 reluctantly nodded, and said that he would try his best to persuade Lu Li to let bygones be bygones and bury the hatchet. The 3 island masters returned with uneasy hearts. The 7th elder had people bring the 6 chests back to have a look, and all of them were green with envy. These 6 chests were filled with all kinds of precious elixirs and spiritual materials. There was even a chest filled with mysterious crystals. The treasures in the 6 boxes were worth at least 300,000 Xian crystals. Looking at the situation, the 3 island masters would even send gifts over. This was a free pickup. Patriarch 7 summoned all the patriarchs and Lu Yi for a meeting. They unanimously approved Lu Li to be the new island owner of the Blood Evil Island. When Lu Yi sent the news to Lu Li, he didn't say anything. Guest warrior or island owner meant the same to him. It was just a title. His status in the Lu family was high to begin with. Seeing Lu Yi's ardent eyes, Lu Li didn't have the heart to turn her down. He nodded and agreed. However, he made it clear that he wouldn't care about anything at the Blood Evil Island. He was just a nominal leader. Lu Li's reply actually made Patriarch 7 and the others happier. What they wanted was for Lu Li to stay out of everything. If he were to meddle in everything, they would be unhappy. Without the threat from the outside, the remaining 6 patriarchs of the Lu family gathered together and began to discuss the future development of the Lu family. First of all, powerful warriors. The Lu family was in desperate need of powerful warriors to protect the Blood Evil Island. Even though Ming Yu's reputation was there, he had left. Lu Li didn't clearly state his relationship with Ming Yu. Therefore, the Lu family's strength must be enhanced immediately. To enhance their combat ability, the simplest and fastest way was to buy Green Dwarf. The items sent by the 3 island masters were worth 300,000 Xian crystals. All the valuables of the Blood Evil Island had been collected and counted. The wealth was amazing. There were 500,000 Xian crystals, and the treasures and mystical materials added together were worth 2 million Xian crystals. Therefore, the Lu family was not short of Xian crystals. Each green dwarf was worth 50,000 Xian crystals. Patriarch 7 waved his hand and was ready to pay back the 400,000 Xian crystals he owed the Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce, and buy 10 more green dwarf. Including the 5 green dwarfs left in the Lu family, there would be 15 green dwarfs in total. They wouldn't be afraid even if the 3 islands attacked together. At the same time, Patriarch 7 was ready to bring hundreds of thousands of Xian crystals to the Goddown Island so that the Goddown Island would recognize the status of the Lu family and become an affiliated force of the Goddown Island. As long as the Goddown Island agreed, the Blood Evil Island would be completely stabilized. On the other hand, all the aborigines of the Blood Evil Island could be summoned to the Lu family warriors who could cultivate Xian energy. A large number of pellets would be used to help them enhance their combat abilities. The number of warriors of the Lu family was too few. They didn't have enough manpower. After the discussion, the patriarchs of the Lu family started to move. Lu Yi and a group of patriarchs brought numerous treasures to the branch of the Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce at the Goddown Island to sell. After they got the Xian crystals, Lu Yi went to the Heaven Prison Island with a patriarch to find Chief Steward Bai. Patriarch 7 went to the Su family, the overlord of the Goddown Island, with his injuries. He brought hundreds of thousands of Xian crystals to give to the Su family. Unexpectedly, patriarchs of the Su family dared not to accept the Xian crystals. The chief patriarch of the Su family received Patriarch 7 in person and promised that from now on, the Blood Evil Island would be the territory of the Lu family. Also, the Lu family didn't have to pay any tribute. Patriarch 7's attitude could not be better. The chief patriarch of the Su family even kindly invited Lu Li to the island as a guest and conveyed the greetings from Su Chen, the island owner of the Goddown Island. He also said that in a few days, when Lu Li's wounds were healed, he would send someone to offer his condolences. Patriarch 7 was overjoyed. The Su family clearly knew about the fight at the Blood Evil Island and how Mingyu knelt down. There was only one 5th-rank force in the entire Thousand Island Lake, the Bai family, the Old Man of Heaven Prison's family. There were 8 other 4th-grade forces and the Goddown Island was one of them. 3 warriors of the Soul Pond realm would be a 3rd-rank force and 3 warriors of the Fate Wheel realm would be a 4th-rank force. There were 3 warriors at the Fate Wheel realm on the Goddown Island. Island owner Su Chen was at the peak of the Fate Wheel realm. What realm was Ming Yu at? Eternal Realm Warrior ranked top 10 on the Warlord list of the Thousand Island Lake. Even though there was a rumor many years ago that Su Chen was about to reach the Eternal Realm, even if he did, how could he be a match for Ming Yu? It was easy to explain why the Su family valued Lu Li so much. Patriarch 7 put his mind at ease. With Lu Li's reputation, at least in the short term, the Blood Evil Island would be safe. However, when Lu Yi came back the next day, she brought back a piece of bad news. The Bai family's attitude towards her was much colder than before. Previously, the green dwarfs only cost 40,000 Xian crystals, but this time, it was 50,000 Xian crystals. Also, it was another 50,000 Xian crystals for delivery. Is it because of Ming Yu? Patriarch 7 remembered the rumor that Ming Yu refused the solicitation of the Bai family and indirectly caused a young lady of the Bai family to commit suicide for love. Patriarch 7 felt uneasy. The Bai family was the overlord of the Thousand Island Lake. If the Bai family were to be offended, the Lu family would find it difficult to move forward. Chapter 135. When Lu Yi brought the news back to Lu Li, he could not figure it out either. Madame Yen used to think highly of him and even wanted to cooperate with him. She gave him 400,000 Xian crystals on credit. Why did she suddenly change her attitude? It was impossible to guess what was on the mind of a big shot. Anyway, the Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce was not going to go against a small Blood Evil Island on purpose. Luli decided to leave it alone after some thoughts. Patriarch 7 and the others worried for a while, and then put the matter aside. The Bai family would not deal with a small Lu family. Anyway, the 10 green dwarfs had been bought. When the green dwarfs arrived, the Blood Evil Island would be completely safe. The threat of the God Down Island was gone. The patriarchs of the Lu family were relieved. They started to plant blood caterpillar grasses on a large scale. This time, the Lu family was not afraid of being exposed. They circled out a large piece of land as an herbal field and built a huge blood pond. However, after the blood pond was built, a huge stone fort was built on top of it to hide the blood pond. Patriarch 7 and the others did not know that Luli relied on the animal tooth pendant. They thought he had some special prescription. Naturally, they did not want anyone to know about it. Therefore, they hid the blood pond under the stone fort. Luli was satisfied when he learned about it. He asked Patriarch 7 to build an attic on a dragon elephant mountain near the stone fort. He wanted to live by himself just like he did at the Blood Dragon Island. For one thing, it would be quiet, and Little White would have a place to play. Patriarch 7 was secretly overjoyed when he heard Luli's request. Luli was making it clear that he would not get involved in any internal affairs of the Blood Dragon Island. Lu-E was not sensible enough. The island owner of the Blood Evil Island was actually Patriarch 7. Patriarch 7 mobilized hundreds of people to build a luxurious castle for Luli on the Dragon Elephant Mountain. He also arranged for some maids, cooks, and escorts. Patriarch 7 even mobilized a green dwarf to protect Luli. Hundreds of people started the work. The construction was so fast. In just 3 days, a luxurious castle stood on the Dragon Elephant Mountain. Luli's wounds were almost healed. Patriarch 7 went to have a look and was very satisfied. However, he sent several escorts away, leaving only the green dwarf and 4 maids. The escorts at the Xian Wu realm were pointless. They were an eyesore. Little White liked its new territory very much, because Dragon Elephant Mountain not only had bamboo rats, but also various small animals, which was enough for it to relieve its boredom. The Dragon Elephant Mountain was only the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn away from the Blood Evil Fortress. The elixir field was at the foot of the mountain. Usually, no one would come to disturb this place, so it was very suitable for cultivation. Luli moved into the Dragon Elephant Mountain, ready to cultivate in closed-door cultivation. However, after cultivating for 3 days, Lu-E came to inform him that there was a visitor. Luli walked out of the cultivation room. He knew that Lu-E wouldn't bother him if it were someone else. He inquired for a while and learned that they were indeed big shot. The eldest young master of the God Down Island, Su Yaoyang, and the 4th young mistress, Su Fangfei, had come to visit together. Several days ago, patriarchs of the God Down Island said that they would send someone to visit Luli. Also, they had sent the most important young masters and young ladies of the family. Luli had shown enough respect. Of course, Luli had to meet them. He followed Lu-E and several escorts to the Blood Evil Fortress. It took them the time for 3 incense sticks to burn to arrive. Luli walked towards the Might Hall, the largest stone fortress in the fortress. As soon as he entered the Might Hall, Luli's attention was attracted by a handsome young master and a beautiful young lady next to him. The young master was in his early 20s, with red lips and white teeth. He was as handsome as a young lady. He wore a silver jade robe with a golden belt on his waist, giving people a sense of elegance. The young lady was a bit younger, only 17 or 18 years old. She wore a white dress with pink lace. She had green gems on her earlobes. She had bright eyes and white teeth. She had a sweet smile and an elegant temperament. All of a sudden, Lu-E looked inferior. 2 bloodline warriors, and both of them are of the 5th rank. Luli fixed his eyes on the necks of the 2. There was a cyan mark on their necks, like 2 willow leaves. Luli could not tell what kind of bloodline it was. Behind them stood 2 old men of the Soul Pond realm. Clearly, they were their escorts. With 2 warriors of the Soul Pond realm standing there, their status was even more obvious. Su Yaoyang is at the initial stage of the Soul Pond realm, and Su Fangfei is at the latter stage of the Spirit Sea realm? Lu Li felt shocked after sensing their qi and energy. Young masters and young ladies of 4th-rank forces were really something. Su Yaoyang had reached the Soul Pond realm at such a young age, and he was a bloodline warrior. His future was boundless. Seeing Lu Li walking over, the 2 of them glanced over at him. They were taken aback. Lu Li was wearing an average cyan robe, and he was only at the middle stage of the Spirit Sea realm. He didn't have the noble temperament of someone born in a big family. He didn't look like the young master of Mingyu. The 2 were born in big families, so they were shrewd. They smiled and stood up. The handsome young master Su Yaoyang cupped his fists and said, "You must be island owner Lu Li? I am Su Yaoyang, and this is my sister, Su Fangfei." Su Fangfei nodded with a smile. Lu Li cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, young master Su, Lady Su. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you." With that said, Lu Li went directly to the main seat. Su Yaoyang and Su Fangfei looked at each other, speechless. Before the guest sat down, he, the host, had already sat down. It seemed that he was not born in a big family, so he didn't know manners. What was more, the Blood Evil Island was an affiliated force of the God Down Island. No matter what, Su Yaoyang and Su Fangfei were Lu Li's masters in name. Before the masters sat down, how could the servants sit down first? Patriarch 7, who was accompanying them, reacted quickly. He said with a smile, "Young Master Su, Lady Su, please sit down. Someone, bring out our best rain cloud leaves. Please have a taste." Su Yaoyang had good self-restraint. He didn't mind Lu Li's impoliteness too much. He said with a smile, "Island owner Lu, I heard that you were injured some time ago? We have received the news about the fight between you and the Blood Evil Island. But you are all affiliated forces of the God Down Island, so it is not appropriate for us to get involved. Please understand." Lu Li nodded and said, "We understand. Thank you, young Master Su. My wounds are almost healed. I was going to pay a visit to island owner Su, but I have something to deal with on the island, so I was delayed. Young Master Su, please convey my apologies." Patriarch 7 nodded. This time, Lu Li's reply was not too bad. He knew how to say some polite words. Young Master Su nodded in response. For the first time, Su Fangfei spoke. Light flickered in her eyes. She asked a sharp question. "Island owner Lu, I heard that Lord Mingyu came that day and said that you are his young master. Is it true?" "Ha ha. Fangfei is a straightforward person. I am curious about this. Island owner Lu, please don't take offense." As soon as Su Fangfei finished her words, Su Yaoyang's eyes glowed. The 2 elders of the Soul Pond realm standing behind him glanced over to Lu Li. Clearly, they were paying close attention. Lu Li grinned and said, "I can't say much about this. Lord Mingyu doesn't like me to talk about this. You can ask Lord Mingyu when you have the chance." Nice. Patriarch 7 and Lu Yi secretly praised Lu Li for his good move. Asking Su Fangfei and the others to ask Mingyu? Even if they had the guts, they wouldn't have the chance. Mingyu was famous for being a lone ranger. Nobody knew where he lived. Even if they had the chance to meet him, not even Su Qin dared to ask, let alone them. A trace of disappointment appeared in Su Fangfei's eyes. Su Yaoyang and the 2 warriors of the Soul Pond realm were in deep thought. Lu Li's words gave them some inside information. It seemed that Lu Li and Mingyu must be related. But Lu Li called Lord Mingyu? Did that mean he was not the young master? Since Lu Li didn't want to say, they couldn't ask. Chapter 136. After Su Yaoyang and Su Fangfei left, Lu Li went back to the Dragon Elephant Mountain to cultivate. 2 days later, messengers from the Killer's Island, the Devil Island and the Black Fox Island came again to see Lu Li. Lu Li was nowhere to be seen. The man left behind about 200,000 Xian crystals and left. The seventh elder vaguely expressed that the previous incident would be written off and they would coexist peacefully in the future. The Lu family's herbal field was cleared, and they started to plant blood caterpillar grass on a large scale. They planted 10,000 stalks at once and bought over 1,000 blood rhinoceroses. The blood pond was large and could be used for 10 days at a time. Lu Li only needed to go down the mountain once every 10 days. After 10 days, the Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce delivered 10 green dwarf. This time, the Blood Evil Island was completely safe. During this time, more and more people came to the Blood Evil Island to seek shelter. Even though there were not many of them and none of them had a high plane, the Lu family was very happy. What the Lu family lacked the most right now was people. Even though there might be spies from other forces in this group of people, the Lu family didn't care. They would use them first. However, these newcomers did not have the qualifications to approach the medicinal field. They could only be in charge of some chores, such as patrolling outside the island and running errands. 13 days later, the first batch of blood caterpillar fruits were ripe. There were 6,000 of them, which would be worth more than 100,000 Xian crystals, according to the original price. The seventh patriarch and Lu Yi personally went to the Heaven Prison Island, but they came back dejectedly. The Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce had lowered the price. 20 Xian crystals for one blood caterpillar fruit was 50,000 Xian crystals less. Chief Steward Bai's explanation was that the Lu family had too many blood caterpillar fruits, and the market was limited. The Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce did not do business with forces outside the Thousand Island Lake, so they could not sell it. Chief Steward Bai had also limited the number of blood caterpillar fruits that Lu Yi could bring in, at most 10,000 blood caterpillar fruits a month. The Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce would not be able to swallow any more. However, he promised that this was the lowest price. If the price was lowered again, the Lu family could sell the blood caterpillar fruits to other chambers of commerce, and the previous agreement would be cancelled. Is it really because of Mingyu? Why did the Bai family's attitude towards them change so much? Lu Li couldn't figure it out. However, the Lu family could make a lot of money if they could sell it for 20 Xian crystals each. After a few years of operation, the Lu family's wealth would be terrifying. Everything was going well. The Lu family provided Lu Li with endless Heaven Xian pellet. He didn't have to worry about cultivation resources. If everything went well, it would take him 5 or 6 months to reach the late stage of the Spirit Sea realm. Lu Li's cultivation speed might be fast, but that was based on the endless amount of Heaven Xian pellet. How could an average person enjoy such treatment? Even Lu Yi did not have this kind of treatment when she was in the Wuling County. Back then, the Lu family was a prosperous family with too many warriors of the internal clan, the external clan, and the guest clan. Other than the child who had awakened the flame bloodline, no one else had the right to use all kinds of resources without restrictions. Lu Li's cultivation speed was actually fast, at least twice as fast as average warriors. Lu Yi and Patriarch 7 all noticed this, but they thought it was because of Lu Li's talent. Lu Li had always been a man of few words, so it was inappropriate for them to ask. Lu Li didn't know how fast the others were cultivating, so he didn't think about it. Now he was focused on cultivation. He wanted to reach the Eternal Realm as soon as possible and then find a way to teleport to the Lu family and find Lu Ling at the Cyan Plains. The Blood Evil Island was stabilized. They were not in need of Xian crystals anymore. Patriarchs of the Lu family all received endless resources. Patriarchs at the initial stage and middle stage of the Spirit Sea realm began to cultivate desperately to reach the latter stage of the Spirit Sea realm. Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9, on the other hand, were ready to try to reach the Soul Pond realm. There were also many native martial artists who were given many pills to help them increase their combat strength. The Lu family formed 6 armies of 3,000 warriors, among which there were about 400 or 500 warriors of the Xian Wu realm. The Lu family wanted to use the endless resources to push these warriors to the peak of the Xian Wu realm and then help dozens of others to reach the Spirit Sea realm. In this way, the strength of the Lu family could be greatly enhanced. 8 days later, the peaceful Blood Evil Island was stirred up again. A man came to the island, a warrior who came to seek shelter at the Lu family. The reason for the stir was that this man was at the Soul Pond realm, the peak of it. Because of Ming Yu's fame, there were warriors coming to the Blood Evil Island to seek shelter. But it was a warrior at the peak of the Soul Pond realm, which was strange. Everyone in the Lu family was nervous. If this old man acted recklessly, he could level the entire Blood Evil Island by himself. When Lu Yi saw this man, she immediately sent someone to inform Lu Li. Lu Li hurried down the Dragon Elephant Mountain with a green dwarf and arrived at the Blood Evil Fortress. He met the powerful warrior who came to seek shelter. This was an old man who was about to die. His back was hunched like a camel, and his hair was white like snow. His brows were also white, and they were also quite long, hanging down to his cheek. His withered tree bark-like old face was full of arrogance and haughtiness. Bang, bang, bang! At this moment, the old man was sitting behind a golden table. He slapped the golden table loudly. He squinted at Patriarch 7 and the others and said, "Where is the island owner? Where is your island owner? I, the hunchback, have come all the way here. Is this how you treat me? I have been sitting here for half a day, and the island owner doesn't even show up without a word. What kind of hospitality is this? One word. Will you give me the position of the chief patriarch of the Blood Evil Island? If not, I will leave." Lu Li didn't go in rashly. He winked at Lu Yi who was inside. Lu Yi walked out quietly. Lu Li asked, "What is it? Have you got all the information about this man?" Lu Yi nodded and said, "Patriarch Lu has. This man is called Hunchback Tian. He is famous at the Thousand Island Lake. He reached the peak of the Soul Pond realm 100 years ago. He really came here with sincerity. But we cannot accept this man." Lu Li raised his eyebrows in surprise and asked, "Why not?" "We cannot afford it," Lu Yi sighed and said. "Hunchback Tian reached the peak of the Soul Pond realm 100 years ago. Over the past 100 years, he has joined more than 40 forces. In the end, all of them sent him away. This man is a lunatic. He tries to reach the Fate Wheel realm once a year. He has tried more than 80 times, but he failed every time without exception. More than 80 times. Lu Li touched his nose in embarrassment. He seemed to understand what Lu Yi meant. Patriarch Kai of the Lu family once told him that the wealth of the Lu family was only enough for them to try to reach the Fate Wheel realm for 3 times. Based on Lu Li's estimation of the wealth of the Lu family, one attempt to reach the Fate Wheel realm would cost at least 3 million Xian crystals. Hunchback Tian would try to reach the Fate Wheel realm once a year, so they had to prepare 3 million Xian crystals for him. Not even a third-rank family could afford it. Fourth-rank family? They were not short of warriors of the Soul Pond realm. What was the use of Hunchback Tian? You have tried for 100 years and you still failed? You still want to do it? Lu Li was speechless. Talent was very important on the path of Wu Dao. Now that Hunchback Tian had tried more than 80 times and failed, then he would never be able to reach the Fate Wheel realm in this lifetime. Hunchback Tian was really a Wu Dao addict. Lu Li felt relieved when he thought that as long as he could successfully make the Fate Wheel, he would have another 500 years of life. Hunchback Tian wouldn't have to die. Nobody wanted to die. Everybody wanted to have a try. Once they made the Fate Wheel, a new world would open up. Lu Li thought about it and asked, "How many Xian crystals can our family make in a year?" Lu Yi thought about it and said, "If nothing goes wrong, we can make more than 2 million Xian crystals a year. But we are spending a lot now. It will be good if we can have a surplus of nearly 1,000,000 Xian crystals a year. Lu Li sighed and said, We really cannot afford it. Chapter 137. Lu Li thought about it and asked again, Are you sure there is nothing wrong with this hunchback Tian's information? If we recruit him, he won't do anything reckless on the island, right? Lu Li, we really can't afford to raise him. Lu Li shook her head. Seeing that Lu Li didn't say anything, she had to add, He is okay. Hunchback Tian is famous at the Thousand Island Lake. I never heard of him doing anything reckless. That's good. Lu Li suddenly made up his mind. He walked towards the Might Hall in strides. Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 were talking to Hunchback Tian in a nice tone. Seeing Lu Li come in, Hunchback Tian knew that Lu Li had asked Lu Yi out to understand the situation. Hunchback Tian said with relief, Senior Hunchback Tian, this is our island owner Lu Li. He has a good relationship with Lord Mingyu. Hunchback Tian released his powerful qi and energy as soon as he saw the man was here. The entire Might Hall became quite depressing. Hunchback Tian said with pride, Island owner Lu? I have heard some stories about you. You are a promising young man. Lord Mingyu and I have met on several occasions. We are acquaintances. Lu Li glanced at Hunchback Tian lightly without saying anything. He walked directly to the main seat and drank some tea before he looked at Hunchback Tian and said, You don't have to show your power. I know your situation very well. Do you want to talk? If you don't want to talk, see us out. Lu Li's tone surprised Patriarch 7 and the others. Lu Li's attitude was even more arrogant than Hunchback Tian's. Was he not afraid that Hunchback Tian would turn hostile? Hunchback Tian's expressions changed. His eyes became cold as he glared at Lu Li. Lu Li didn't show any weakness. He stared back at Hunchback Tian. Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 became nervous. They didn't dare to make any sound. After a while, Hunchback Tian suddenly restrained his horrifying qi and energy. He put on a kind smile like a kind grandpa. He grinned and said, Island owner Lu, you really are a young hero. I admire you. I have come all the way here with sincerity. Island owner Lu, what do you want to talk about? I am all ears. Looking at Hunchback Tian's wrinkled face and his flattering expression, Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 and Lu Yi both rolled their eyes. Hunchback Tian was at the peak of the Soul Pond realm after all. Where was his dignity and pride as a powerful warrior? Lu Li looked better. He didn't say anything. He took another sip of tea and said leisurely, If you want to join the Blood Evil Island, we can consider it. But you want to be the chief patriarch? No way. At best, you can be a deacon. You don't have the right to manage anything. You only have the responsibility to protect the Blood Evil Island. Island Lord. Patriarch 7 and the others were getting anxious, but Lu Li waved his hand to signal them not to say anything. He kept staring at Hunchback Tian, waiting for his reply. Hunchback Tian was enraged again. His eyes were even bigger than a cow's. He slammed the table and said angrily, Deacon? Responsible for the safety of the island? Island Lord Lu, do you think this old man is a guard dog? You're looking down on me too much. I have been famous at the Thousand Island Lake for 100 years. Even Su Chern has to be polite to me, not to mention a third-rank force like yours. Send the guest off. Before Hunchback Tian could finish his words, Lu Li shouted coldly and walked directly towards the outside. Hunchback Tian became anxious. He dashed to the front of Lu Li and said with a flattering smile, Island Lord Lu, I haven't finished yet. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. Actually, as long as you agree to my terms, you can be a deacon. From now on, I will be responsible for the safety of the Blood Evil Island. Lu Li squinted at Hunchback Tian and said, What terms? Hunchback Tian's expression became solemn. He said seriously, I have learned several profound meanings recently. I am confident that I can reach the Fate Wheel realm. As long as the Blood Evil Island can provide me with unlimited mystical materials to reach the Fate Wheel realm, the business of the Blood Evil Island will be my business. Whoever dares to attack the Blood Evil Island must step over my dead body first. Unlimited Louis, Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 twitched their mouth. This was what they were afraid of. To reach the Fate Wheel realm once a year, the Blood Evil Island couldn't afford it even if they sold everything they had. It was easy to invite a god in, but it would be hard to send one away. There were 15 green dwarfs at the Blood Evil Island now. Safety was no longer a problem. The amount of Xian crystals that the green dwarfs would consume in a year was also an astronomical figure in your dreams. Luli shouted coldly, which made Patriarch 7 and the others excited. It seemed that Luli was not muddle-headed. However, Luli's next words made Patriarch 7 and the others speechless. Luli said, "There is no unlimited supply. You can try to reach the Fate Wheel realm, but you must do it every 3 years. If you can't succeed after 10 attempts, the Blood Evil Island will not give you 1 Xian crystal. Trying to reach the Fate Wheel realm would cost 3 million Xian crystals. If he could do it every 3 years, then he would have to prepare 1 million Xian crystals a year. It would be good enough if the Lu family could have a surplus of 1 million Xian crystals every year. Also, as the family grew stronger, there would be more and more things that needed Xian crystals. For example, if Patriarch 7 and Patriarch 9 wanted to reach the Soul Pond realm, they would need a large number of Xian crystals. What if they failed? The kid with the roaring flame, bloodline and Lu Li's strength were both increasing. Lu Li's cultivation speed was so fast. What if he also wanted to reach the Soul Pond realm? Where could the Lu family get so many Xian crystals? Patriarch 7 and the others were not happy about this, and Hunchback Tian was even more so. He waved his hand with determination and said, "No way. I am at the peak of the Soul Pond realm, a famous warrior of the Thousand Island Lake. It is already shameful for me to guard your house. You want to cut off my resources? I don't have much time left in my life. I must try once a year. How about this? If I can't succeed after 20 attempts, I will leave the Blood Evil Island by myself." "Piss off." Lu Li stared at him and said, "We cannot afford to support you if you try once a year. Go somewhere else. See you out." Seeing that Lu Li was about to leave again, Hunchback Tian became anxious. He said in a good mood, "Brother Lu, don't be like this. How about once a year and a half? Once every 2 years. Lu Li said decisively, "Also, you can only try 10 times. That is the condition. You can do whatever you want if you don't agree. Also, if you cannot leave after you reach the Fate Wheel realm, you must guard the Blood Evil Island for at least 100 years. You are going too far." Hunchback Tian was so angry that he was trembling. Then he said, "Deal. Brother Lu, you are the island owner. You cannot break your promise." Island owner. Patriarch 7, Patriarch 9 and Lu Yi were getting anxious. Seeing Lu Li walking out, they hurriedly chased after him. 3 million Xian crystals in 2 years? Do you want them to pay with their lives? What's the rush? Seeing everyone's anxious expressions, Lu Li said carelessly, "I will figure out a way to get the Xian crystals. As long as I succeed, I can help you earn several million more Xian crystals a year." Several million? Lu Yi and the other two's eyes lit up. As long as they could earn several million more Xian crystals a year, they could even support 2 more Hunchback Tians. Whoosh! Hunchback Tian's hearing was very good. He rushed out in a blur and shouted, "Island owner Lu, you can earn several million more Xian crystals a year. I can only earn 3 million Xian crystals for 1 attempt. How about I try once a year? As long as I can reach the Fate Wheel realm, I will pay you back 10 times. "Piss off." Lu Li stared at him. He didn't show any respect to Hunchback Tian. He shouted coldly, "Are you going to break your promise? Then I won't see you out." Hunchback Tian panicked. He waved his hand and said, "No, no. I am just saying it casually. Island owner, please do what you need to do. I will go and patrol the Blood Evil Island now. I will make sure that not even a mosquito can get in. Chapter 138. Luli, on the other hand, knew Hunchback Tian well. It was because he knew Hunchback Tian that Luli could defeat him. Maybe 100 years ago, Hunchback Tian was a big shot with the pride of a powerful warrior. But after 100 years, the dignity and pride in Hunchback Tian's bones had long been worn out. Over the past 100 years, Hunchback Tian had tried to reach the Fate Wheel realm more than 80 times. This proved that he was a kung fu addict. Or in other words, the only thing he wanted to do now was to continue to reach the Fate Wheel realm. As long as someone could provide him with mystical materials to help him reach the Fate Wheel realm, he could even be a coachman. Warriors at the peak of the Soul Pond realm were not that great. If they relied on themselves, they could not get a large amount of mystical materials and Xian crystals in a short time, especially at the Thousand Island Lake. The size of the Thousand Island Lake was limited. The best land was occupied by the Bai family and the rest were divided up by the 8 fourth-rank forces. All fourth-rank forces had powerful warriors at the Fate Wheel realm. Unless Hunchback Tian had a death wish, he wouldn't dare to mess with a fourth-rank force. Perhaps he could loot a rank 3 force, but don't forget that rank 3 forces were all vassals of rank 4 forces. It was fine if you robbed them once, but how could you not be angry if you robbed a 4th-rank clan several times? The 4th-rank families didn't want Hunchback Tian, but the 3rd-rank families couldn't afford to raise him. Hunchback Tian was in a bad situation. Hunchback Tian had joined dozens of forces in the past 100 years. Therefore, Luli was confident that he could defeat Hunchback Tian. With Ming Yu's reputation, how could Hunchback Tian dare to offend him? After 100 years, Hunchback Tian's sharpness had been worn down. He was a bully who feared the strong and bullied the weak. He would pretend to be a coward to those he couldn't afford to offend. Luli chose to take in Hunchback Tian because the Blood Evil Island didn't have any powerful warriors to keep watch, so there was no absolute deterrence. How long could Ming Yu's fame last? If Ming Yu didn't show up at the Blood Evil Island in 1 or 2 years, what would the nearby forces think? Also, Luli himself didn't want to borrow Ming Yu's name. He wasn't sure if Ming Yu was old friends with his father or if Ming Yu was just testing him. In short, it was best not to borrow it, lest something happened. The Blood Evil Island would develop fast in the future. Inevitably, people would covet it. The green dwarfs alone were not enough to deter the enemy. They needed a strong person to keep watch. Without a doubt, Hunchback Tian was a good candidate. This person had no ambition. As long as his requirements were met, he could be ordered around. As for where did the mystic crystals come from, Luli was not worried about this. The market demand for the blood caterpillar grass was limited. If he couldn't grow it on a larger scale, then he could grow something else. For example, the fire fairy Ganoderma and the netherworld root. The 2 kinds of mystical grasses were very rare and expensive. Luli didn't consider them before because the cost of the 2 kinds of mystical grasses was very high. They required the blood of at least 3rd-rank Xian beasts to grow, which the Lu family could not afford. Madame Yen used to want to work with him on these 2 kinds of elixirs. Now, Luli felt the time was ripe and he could try to cultivate them. Once they could cultivate high-quality fire fairy lucid Ganoderma and netherworld roots, the Lu family would have a glazed crystal mine. It was not a problem to earn millions of Xian crystals a year. It was too easy to raise Hunchback Tian. Luli didn't tell anyone about his plan. The Blood Evil Island was not completely stabilized yet. There might be many spies on the island. He planned to take action in 2 months. Luli left Hunchback Tian alone and went back to the Elephant Dragon Mountain to cultivate. He asked Patriarch 7 to deal with the rest. Hunchback Tian became the Hall Master of the Hall of Warfare, responsible for the safety of the Blood Evil Island. Patriarch 7 made a deal with Hunchback Tian. He would give Hunchback Tian 50,000 Xian crystals a month, and the rest would be given to Hunchback Tian after 2 years. When he had 3 million Xian crystals, Hunchback Tian could buy the mystical materials he needed himself. Hunchback Tian was satisfied. He was not afraid that the Lu family would go back on their word. He had become a hired thug hired by the Lu family at the cost of Xian crystals, responsible for guarding the house. Hunchback Tian was very responsible. He didn't need to cultivate anymore. All he had to do was to wait for the mystical materials to get to the Fate Wheel realm. He had lived for more than 150 years. 2 years was just a blink of an eye for him. Under Hunchback Tian's guidance, the Lu family bought some formation stones and built some special inhibition formations, which greatly strengthened the defense of the Blood Evil Island. Regular scouts could not sneak into the Blood Evil Island. Only powerful warriors of the Soul Pond realm could. After 6 or 7 days, all kinds of arrangements were made on the Blood Evil Island. Hunchback Tian wandered around the island every day, eating and drinking well. Regular warriors of the Lu family treated him with respect. Hunchback Tian lived a leisurely life. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 days had passed. Today was Su Chen's birthday. Early in the morning, Lu Yi sent someone to invite Lu Li over. Lu Li was the island owner, so he had to be the one to do this kind of thing. Lu Li knew this was unavoidable. He took a bath and changed into a fairly gorgeous robe. He brought Lu Yi, Patriarch 7, Hunchback Tian and 10 green dwarfs to the God-Down Island on a battleship. Lu Li didn't need to worry about trivial things like gift. Patriarch 7 had already prepared them. However, Hunchback Tian was unwilling to come along. He said that his duty was to protect the Blood Evil Island, not to be Lu Li's follower. Lu Li said he would break the promise, so Hunchback Tian had to go with him. As far as Hunchback Tian could tell, Lu Li's backer was Mingyu, and he couldn't afford to offend him. If Lu Li really broke the promise, how could Hunchback Tian dare to kill Lu Li? The eldest young master of the Su family, Su Yaoyang, was waiting for Lu Li at the dock in person. He was a bit surprised to see Lu Li with 10 green dwarfs and a powerful warrior at the peak of the Soul Pond realm. Then he realized that Lu Li was demonstrating his strength to nearby forces. Su Yaoyang knew Hunchback Tian's identity just by looking at him. He didn't say anything, but he was sneering inside. He thought to himself that Lu Li was being taken advantage of. "Hold the mighty heaven halberd for me." The battleship docked. Lu Li threw the mighty heaven halberd to Hunchback Tian. The latter flew into a rage and murmured, "Island owner, what kind of person do you think I am? Hold your weapon for you? Do you need me to hold your horse for you?" Lu Li glanced over to him and said in a cold voice, "Hunchback Tian, you don't seem to know who you are? You are just a deacon of our island. Have you ever seen deacons of other forces disobey the island owner? Do you not want to work here anymore? We can break the contract. I have been thinking about it, and I think it's not worth it to keep you." "Don't." Hunchback Tian was terrified. He said while clenching his teeth, "Just this once. If you do this again, I will quit. Let's go." Lu Li waved his hand lightly and walked towards the dock first. Hunchback Tian followed Lu Li with his face covered in dirt, followed by Patriarch 7 and Lu Yi. The last one was the 5 green dwarfs. There were many battleships at the dock. Many forces nearby had come early in the morning. Seeing Lu Li coming down with a group of people, they all looked at him. The 10 green dwarfs at the back of Lu Li's team were too eye-catching. It was hard not to attract attention. 10 green dwarfs were equivalent to 10 warriors at the Soul Pond realm. Plus, there was Hunchback Tian at the peak of the Soul Pond realm. Lu Li's move had shocked many island owners and patriarchs of different forces. Many people asked around and learned that it was Lu Li from the Blood Evil Island. They were relieved and looked at Lu Li in a new light. Of course. Chapter 139. Luli and the others sat in the pavilion near the dock for a while. More island owners arrived with their sons and daughters. As soon as the young ladies arrived, they all looked at Su Yaoyang with passion, wishing they could swallow him whole. After the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, representatives of 7 or 8 forces arrived. Su Yaoyang brought them to the God-Down City on carriages in person. The God-Down City was not far away. They arrived in an hour and stopped in front of a luxurious compound. Luli got off the carriage with the others. He took a casual glance and was surprised. An old man in a splendid robe was standing at the gate of the compound. The man's chi and energy were so strong that Luli could not tell his realm. Needless to say, he was a powerful warrior of the Fate Wheel realm. There was a cyan willow leaf mark on the man's neck. He was a bloodline warrior of the 5th rank. The Su family of the God-Down Island deserved to be the overlord of the northeast of the Thousand Island Lake. They were powerful. That is Su Sai, the 2nd patriarch of the Su family. Patriarch 7 whispered to Luli's ear. Luli nodded and got off the carriage. Su Sai looked at Luli and put on a smile. Before Su Yaoyang introduced him, he walked to Luli in strides and said with a smile, "I am Su Sai, the 2nd patriarch of the Su family. You must be island owner Luli?" Luli knew how to behave himself since Su Sai gave him face. He bowed and said, "Greetings, Senior Su. Good. Young hero. Su Sai took Luli's hand in a friendly manner. He looked at the other island owners and said casually, "We are old acquaintances. Come into the castle with me. Brother Lu, please." Many island owners, young masters and young ladies were envious when they saw Su Sai walking into the compound with Luli's hand in his. Since when was the patriarch of the Su family so polite to an affiliated force? It was difficult for them to see Su Sai, not to mention being led in by him in person. Patriarch 7 and Lu Yi stood straight, feeling honored. Luli didn't get carried away. He knew that Su Sai was not doing this for him, but for Mingyu. Without Mingyu's kneeling, Su Sai wouldn't see him even if Luli knelt to see him. The banquet hadn't started yet. Su Sai showed them to a side chamber, served them some tea and snacks, and chatted. Of course, Su Sai was mainly chatting with Luli, asking about the situation at the Blood Evil Island and if he needed any help. He even asked Luli if he had a wife, and wanted to introduce someone to Luli. In a trance, Luli even thought that Su Sidwa was his elder. Su Sidwa answered every now and then with respect and politeness. However, it was impossible for him to ask about Mingyu. After Su Yaoyang came in, he excused himself and left. He continued to receive guests at the docks, causing many young ladies to be disappointed. The Su clan's grand elder and Su clan's patriarch, Su Chun, had yet to show themselves. After all, they had to put on airs. Half an hour later, a servant of the Su family hurried in and whispered a few words in Su Sai's ear. Su Sai suddenly got up and said in surprise, "Everyone, Miss Bai Xiaoshuang has come to God-Down City. Let's go and welcome her together." All the island lords stood up. This time, it was the young masters of the other island lords' turn to have their eyes light up. Luli stood up as well and asked Patriarch 7 with curiosity, "Bai Xiaoshuang is a young lady of the Bai family?" "Bai Xiaoshuang, Bai Qiuxue," Patriarch 7 explained in a low voice. "They are the 2 most famous young ladies of the Bai family, the 2 brightest pearls of the Thousand Island Lake. They are twins. The most important thing is that both of them have awakened, 7th rank bloodline. They are the favorite of the Old Man of Heaven Prison. They stay with the Old Man of Heaven Prison all year round. Their status is higher than many patriarchs of the Bai family. 7th rank bloodline." Lu Li's eyes glowed. How powerful would the bloodline skill of 7th rank bloodline be when it was released? Would it be like the black snakes of Ghost Snake Granny that could kill thousands of people in one move? Everyone walked towards the outside. Luli followed them under the urging of Patriarch 7. At the gate of the Su family compound, Luli saw many patriarchs of the Su family came out to greet them. The chief patriarch of the Su family, Su Tianwen, was there as well. Su Tianwen didn't exchange greetings with them. He just nodded and hurried out with his men towards the teleportation formation at the plaza. Luli followed the crowd. From the distance, he saw a girl in a white dress surrounded by a group of people. Luli got closer and his eyes lit up. One of the two brightest pearls of the Thousand-Island Lake was really beautiful. Her looks and bearing were not weaker than the young lady of a big family with a purple flower mark on her neck that he saw at the frigid cloud mountain. The girl seemed to be younger than Su Fangfei, about the same age as Luli. Even though she had not fully blossomed, she was as attractive as a budding rose. Her face was like jade, her skin was smooth, and her eyes were like stars. What impressed Luli the most was her nose, small and exquisite. The tip of her nose was slightly turned up, giving Luli a feeling that it was very lively. 7th rank bloodline indeed. Luli nodded to himself when he saw a purple crescent mark on the girl's neck. This was the second 7th rank bloodline mark that he had seen. The young lady of a big family he met at the frigid cloud mountain also had a purple mark. Middle stage of the Soul Pond realm? So powerful. Luli sensed it. The corner of his mouth twitched. She had reached the middle stage of the Soul Pond realm at such a young age. A young lady of a big family was really amazing. But on second thought, the Bai family was the #1 family of the Thousand-Island Lake with endless resources. Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Qiuyu must have been growing up on pellets and treasures. Luli understood. The chief patriarch of the Su family, Su Tianwen, walked over with a group of people. They were extremely respectful. The other island owners of third-rank islands also went over to greet them. Only Luli stood still. Luli was never one for flattery. Also, he was a disciple of the Lu family, one of the 10 most powerful bloodlines of the Central Plains. Why should he bow and scrape to others? What was more, even if he were to serve Bai Xiaoshuang, would she like him? Luli didn't move. Hunchback Tian, Patriarch 7 and the others did not want to go over and flatter him. Patriarch 7 urged Luli twice, but Luli turned a deaf ear. There were too many people, so Patriarch 7 didn't try to persuade him anymore. Bai Xiaoshuang was surrounded by people like stars surrounding the moon. She looked calm as if she had seen this kind of scene many times. She replied casually. Then she looked to the north and saw Luli. Luli had a group of people with him. Clearly, he was the leader of a force. He had come here to greet Bai Xiaoshuang. However, he was standing still, which made him stand out. Bai Xiaoshuang gave the chief patriarch of the Su family an inquiring look. Su Sai, who was next to her, came to his senses. He waved his hand and said, "Luli, come and greet Lady Shuang." "Lady Shuang, this is Luli, the new island owner of the Blood Evil Island." "Oh!" For the first time, Bai Xiaoshuang smiled. She looked at Luli curiously and said, "Luli, I have heard of you." What? Before Luli came to greet her, Bai Xiaoshuang had taken the initiative to talk. For the first time, she smiled and said she had heard of Luli, which caused quite a stir. Chapter 140. Luli could feel the murderous looks from many young masters. He felt the pressure was doubled. He forced a smile, walked over, cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Lady Shuang. It is my honor that you have heard of me." "Ha ha." Bai Xiaoshuang smiled mysteriously and said, "The reason I have heard of you is that you are on someone's blacklist." With that said, Bai Xiaoshuang walked directly towards the castle. The young masters burst into laughter. They no longer looked at Luli with jealousy or hatred. Instead, they were looking at him with ridicule. Even though Bai Xiaoshuang didn't say who that person was, all the people she knew were big shots. How could Luli live a good life after he was on the blacklist of a big shot? Luli touched his nose. A glint of doubt appeared in his eyes. Was it because of Mingyu? Was he being targeted by some big shot of the Bai family? Mingyu forced a young lady of the Bai family to death. It was normal that some people of the Bai family bore grudges against him. Lu Li felt more confident when he thought about how Lu Yi and the others were treated coldly when they went to the Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce. That being said, the Bai family was the #1 family of the Thousand Island Lake. If they wanted to kill him, he would have died a long time ago. Big families had their own rules. They wouldn't do anything rash. The Su family walked forward with Bai Xiaoshuang. The others followed them. The plaza was crowded with people. They all came to witness the glory of the Pearl of the Thousand Island Lake. It was about time. They went directly to the main hall. Finally, Lu Li saw the island owner of the Goddown Island, Su Chen, the family patriarch of the Su family. Su Chen seemed to be in his 40s. He was handsome and elegant. He came to the main hall in person for Bai Xiaoshuang, of course. The Goddown Island was a 4th-rank family, affiliated to the Bai family. Bai Xiaoshuang was valued by the old man of Heaven Prison, so she could be regarded as half a master. Even though Su Chen was powerful, Bai Xiaoshuang could be considered his junior. He didn't have to come out to greet her, but he must show enough respect to the old man of Heaven Prison. Nobody would say anything if he came out to greet her. Su Chen was a good man. Bai Xiaoshuang was more polite. Her words and attitude were humble. She even brought gifts for Su Chen. Su Chen went into the main hall. Not long after, Su Yaoyang and Su Fangfei came in with a group of guests. When Su Yaoyang saw Bai Xiaoshuang, he couldn't move his eyes away, and his breathing became rapid. The following scene was very boring. The island lord surrounded Su Chen and flattered him. A group of young masters surrounded Bai Xiaoshuang, and a group of young ladies surrounded Su Yaoyang. Lu Li was bored. He sat and drank by himself. The island owners of the Killer's Island, the Devil Island and the Black Fox Island came over to toast and apologize. Su Sai came over several times as well. Lu Li gave a toast to Su Chen and then lowered his head to eat and drink by himself. Bai Xiaoshuang was born in a big family. She must have seen this kind of situation many times, so she could handle it with ease. She glanced over and noticed Lu Li was sitting in a low-key manner. She thought of something and suddenly said with a sweet smile, "Island owner Lu, I propose a toast to you." Swish, swish, swish. Countless gazes swept over like knives, especially Su Yaoyang, who even had the intention to kill. Bai Xiaoshuang only toasted to Su Chen today. Su Yaoyang toasted to Bai Xiaoshuang several times, and Bai Xiaoshuang only tasted. Now, she wanted to toast to Lu Li? **T, this girl is setting me up, Lu Li cursed to himself. It was clear that Bai Xiaoshuang was up to no good. She could leave after the banquet, but Lu Li would have to bear the brunt of so many attacks in the open and in the dark. Those young masters would be jealous and would trouble him every day. Lu Li was angry. He thought of something and made up his mind. He stood up and said, "How can I say no to a toast from Lady Shuang? But there is a custom in my hometown. When young men and women toast to each other, they either don't drink at all or drink 3 toasts. Lady Shuang is a heroine, the Pearl of the Thousand Island Lake. She is powerful. Is it okay for you to drink 3 toasts?" Many people rolled their eyes. Su Yaoyang was even angrier. Lu Li was so ungrateful. Who was Bai Xiaoshuang? Who dared to force her to drink 3 toasts? Young ladies of big families paid great attention to their appearances and manners. If she were drunk and lost her composure, it would be a disgrace to the Bai family. Lu Li ignored the looks. He stared at Bai Xiaoshuang with a provocative smile. Bai Xiaoshuang set him up, so he did the same to her. It was fair. One could be strong without desire. Lu Li was not interested in any pretty girls. He would not daydream about a swan falling for a toad like him. As far as he was concerned, Bai Xiaoshuang was no different from an average girl. As for offending the Bai family? If the Bai family would care about such a small thing, then the Bai family wouldn't be the most powerful family of the Thousand Island Lake. Mingyu forced a young lady of the Bai family to commit suicide, but he was fine. Bai Xiaoshuang's expressions changed. She was angry. Nobody had ever forced her to do something like this in her life. This island owner of a third-rank force was so insensible and narrow-minded. Wasn't he afraid that she would be so angry that he could not survive at the Thousand Island Lake in the future? What? You don't have the guts? Luli wouldn't let it go. He stared at Bai Xiaoshuang. Since she wanted to play, then he would play along. Offend Bai Xiaoshuang? If so, so be it. There were people in the Bai family who hated her. She didn't care about one more. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Bai Xiaoshuang proposed the toast first. How could she be scared now? She clenched her teeth and said, "Let's drink. I am not afraid of you." Lu Li grinned. He picked up his goblet and drank it up. Then he poured 2 goblets and drank them all at once. Finally, he looked at Bai Xiaoshuang with a smile. Bai Xiaoshuang drank 3 goblets in a row under the watchful eyes of many. Her pretty face was blushing and her eyes were blurred. She glared at Lu Li with hatred, excused herself to Su Chen, and left in a hurry. Su Chen didn't want to interfere in the quarrel between the younger generation. He waved his hand and asked Su Yaoyang to send Bai Xiaoshuang to the teleportation formation. After Su Yaoyang sent Bai Xiaoshuang out, Su Chen looked at Lu Li with a faint smile and said, "Lu Li, you have guts. You will suffer for offending Shuang lass." Ha ha. Lu Li smiled casually and said, "If young lady Bai of the Bai family doesn't have this much tolerance, then how can the Bai family dominate the Thousand Island Lake?" Smart. Su Chen and the others praised him secretly. Lu Li was the first to speak out in public. If this were known to the Bai family would not target Lu Li openly. Otherwise, the forces of the Thousand Island Lake would think that the Bai family was not tolerant. Bai Xiaoshuang walked into the teleportation formation with a cold expression. She didn't say anything to Su Yaoyang, who was behind her. She glanced over to the warriors of the Su family who were guarding the teleportation formation and said coldly, "Activate the teleportation formation." Su Yaoyang waved his hand to let several warriors to activate the teleportation formation. Then he asked with concern, "Young lady Bai, are you okay? How about I send you back?" "I'm okay. No need." Bai Xiaoshuang waved her hand. The teleportation formation glowed, and she disappeared from the God-down city. After a while, a teleportation formation in the Heaven Prison City glowed, and Bai Xiaoshuang appeared. However, Bai Xiaoshuang was not in good condition. As soon as she arrived, she bent over and threw up. She threw up all the food she ate at the banquet. Her white dress was stained. "Young lady Shuang, are you okay?" The one guarding the teleportation formation was a deacon of the Bai family. He hurried over to help Bai Xiaoshuang. Many people nearby looked over. Bai Xiaoshuang fought back the urge to throw up. She mobilized her Xian energy and rushed back to the Bai family compound. Since she was a kid, she had never drunk much. She had only tasted a little. Today, she drank 3 goblets in a row. She couldn't force the alcohol out in public. She spun around in the teleportation formation for a while and threw up. Bai Xiaoshuang felt so ashamed that she could not show her face. After she rushed into the Bai family compound, she shouted while clenching her teeth, "Lu Li, you are doomed! The consequences of offending me are serious." Chapter 141. Lu Li did not know the consequences of offending Bai Xiaoshuang. He went into closed-door cultivation after he came back from the birthday banquet. He didn't care about anything and let Patriarch 7 and the others worry about it. The patriarchs of the Lu family were in a constant state of anxiety, fearing that Bai Xiaoshuang's revenge would come. Even though they knew that Bai Xiaoshuang would not go against the Blood Evil Island openly, which would damage the dignity of the Bai family. Nothing happened for more than 10 days in peace. After Patriarch 7 and Lu Yi brought a batch of blood caterpillar fruits to the Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce, the Lu family gradually felt relieved. When Patriarch 7 and Lu Yi came back, Lu Li came out from closed-door cultivation. He asked Patriarch 7 to secretly buy the seeds of Fire Fairy Lucid Ganoderma and Netherworld roots and a batch of live third-rank Xian beasts. Patriarch 7 did not understand. When Lu Li said that he could earn a large amount of Xian crystals, he immediately went to the God-Down Island. The seeds of Fire Fairy Lucid Ganoderma and Netherworld roots were easy to buy, but third-rank Xian beasts were more difficult. They had to entrust a chamber of commerce to order. After Patriarch 7 came back, Lu Li asked him to secretly cultivate a small farm. The Fire Fairy Lucid Ganoderma and Netherworld roots could not be grown on a large scale. Without enough blood of high-rank Xian beasts, they could only be grown on a small scale. Therefore, it was easy to hide and grow. Usually, nobody was allowed to enter the Dragon Blood Mountain. Patriarch 7 asked someone to cultivate a small farm in a valley in the Dragon Elephant Mountain. Several days later, 4 third-rank Xian beasts were sent back. One of them cost 7 or 8,000 Xian crystals, and all the precious mystical materials were taken away. What Lu Li wanted was the blood. Nothing else mattered. He began his grand plan to grow Fire Fairy Lucid Ganoderma and Netherworld root. He built a blood pond near the farm and kept the 4 third-rank Xian beasts in captivity. They would bleed every few days and were fed with a large amount of blood-producing herbs to prolong the lives of the third-rank Xian beasts. 20 Fire Fairy Lucid Ganoderma were planted. Patriarch 7 had already learned how to grow them from books he bought. During this time, Patriarch 7 stayed at the Dragon Elephant Mountain every day, guarding the precious herbs. The seeds of the 2 herbs cost 40 or 50,000 Xian crystals, and the third-rank Xian beasts cost more than 20,000 Xian crystals. If the cultivation failed, the Lu family would suffer a great loss. If the cultivation was successful, the Lu family could earn a large amount of Xian crystals for the Xian family. With Patriarch 7 keeping an eye on him, Lu Li was not worried. He continued to cultivate. After a while, he would throw the animal tooth pendant into the blood pond. Every 10 days, he would go to the medicine field and blood pool at the foot of the Dragon Elephant Mountain and spend the rest of the time cultivating. The Fire Fairy Lucid Ganoderma and the Nether Een root took a long time to grow. It took a full 20 days for them to mature. During the few days of ripening, the 7th elder was completely immersed in a state of madness. The Netherworld roots were twice as thick. According to his experience of growing blood caterpillar grass, the quality of these 2 elixirs was definitely much higher than ordinary ones. After the herbs matured, the 7th elder picked them overnight, and he even did it himself. Apart from Lu Li, only Lu Yi and Patriarch 9 knew about this. Patriarch 7 understood the seriousness of this matter. Once it was leaked, it would bring endless troubles and disasters to the Lu family. Now that the fruits had been picked, how to appraise and sell them was a troublesome matter. The Heaven Prison Chamber of Commerce had changed their attitude toward the Lu family recently. Plus, what happened to Bai Xiaoshuang worried Patriarch 7. Finally, after some discussion with Lu Li and Lu Yi, they decided to take the risk to bring it out of the Thousand Island Lake and sell it at the Shunfeng City in the south. The Shunfeng City was a regent city of the Heaven Frigid Kingdom. It was occupied by a 5th-rank family of the Heaven Frigid Kingdom. Because of its proximity to the Thousand Island Lake, the city was prosperous. Many forces of the Thousand Island Lake had business dealings with the city in secret. The Yu family's influence couldn't reach the Heaven Frigid Kingdom yet. If they came back immediately after selling the items, the Yu family wouldn't notice. This matter was so important that Patriarch 7 decided to go in person. Once he could sell it for a high price, the Lu family would be rich. Patriarch 7 arranged some affairs on the island and asked Patriarch 9 to take charge of the Blood Evil Island. Patriarch 7 left the Blood Evil Island with Patriarch Lu and 2 other patriarchs on a battleship overnight. After the departure of the 4 patriarchs, the Blood Evil Island was still peaceful. With Hunchback Tian keeping watch, it would be difficult for anything to happen. The blood caterpillar grass continued to be planted, the cultivators continued to cultivate, and the patrolling continued. Luli was in closed-door cultivation again. Hunchback Tian would be there to hold up the sky. Luli was at ease. With a large number of Heaven Xian pellets to squander, Luli's cultivation speed was fast. If nothing went wrong, he could make it to the later stage of the Spirit Sea Realm in several months. After he reached the later stage of the Spirit Sea Realm, he still had to cultivate for a year before he could reach the peak of the Spirit Sea Realm. Only then could he try to make it to the Soul Pond Realm. Also, there must be a constant supply of Heaven Xian pellet. The Heaven Xian pellets cost 80 Xian crystals each. Luli used to consume 1 pellet a day. Gradually, his body became resistant to the efficacy of the pellet. Now, he needed 3 pellets a day to cultivate, which was 240 Xian crystals. Maybe in the future, he would need to consume 5 or 8 Heaven Xian pellets a day. 240 Xian crystals a day would be more than 80,000 Xian crystals a year, based on his current progress. As his realm improved and the efficacy of the pellets weakened, the demand for Heaven Xian pellets would increase. By then, he would need more than 100,000 or even hundreds of thousands of Xian crystals just to cultivate for a year. Luli now understood the importance of a family to a warrior. No wonder Hunchback Tian insisted on staying at the Blood Evil Island shamelessly. Without the support of resources, it was too difficult for a warrior to become a powerful one. How did Ming Yu and the other 4 freaks cultivate? Swish! A figure flew up from the foot of the mountain and directly rushed into the castle at the peak of the mountain, interrupting Luli's thoughts. Average people were not qualified to go up the Dragon Elephant Mountain. Lu Yi would not disturb him for no reason. Luli got up and walked out. It was Lu Yi and she looked serious. He asked, "What happened?" "The Earth Dragon Island." Lu Yi took a few breaths and said, "Something strange happened at the Earth Dragon Island. The volcano there is erupting water. 2 tribes have been flooded." Erupting water? Luli touched his nose in embarrassment. He thought he heard it wrong. Volcanoes only spewed out lava. When did he hear about volcanoes spewing water? Also, the volcanoes at the Blood Evil Island and nearby islands hadn't erupted for hundreds of years. The Earth Dragon Island was close to the Blood Evil Island. Luli knew there was a volcano there that hadn't erupted for hundreds of years as well. "It is erupting water," Lu Yi said with certainty. "I just went there to have a look myself. That small volcano is erupting water. So much water. There are Xian beasts coming out. Just now, 2 second-rank Xian beasts came out and they killed many people of the tribes. Let's go." Luli could not sit still any longer. He picked up his mighty heaven halberd and rushed towards the foot of the mountain with the green dwarfs that were guarding the castle. Erupting water was not a big deal. They just had to build ditches to divert the water into the lake. But erupting Xian beasts was not a small matter. On the off chance that 1 or 2 third-rank or fourth-rank Xian beasts came out, the Blood Evil Island and nearby islands would be wiped out. After Luli rushed to the Blood Evil Fortress, he called up Hunchback Tian at once and rushed towards the Earth Dragon Island with several green dwarfs. As soon as the battleship arrived at the dock of the Earth Dragon Island, Luli heard cries coming from the island. There were people rushing towards the dock. Chapter 142. Third-rank Xian Beast? Luli's heart skipped a beat. There really was a powerful Xian Beast. If it was only third-rank Xian Beasts, it would be okay. But once there was a fourth-rank Xian Beast, it would be fatal. Let's go. They were now the masters of the Blood Evil Island. It was their duty to protect the Blood Evil Island and the nearby islands. They had the responsibility to protect all their people. With Hunchback Tian and the Green Dwarfs, it was not difficult to kill third-rank Xian beasts. If there was a fourth-rank Xian beast, Luli would be powerless. They ran madly towards the island as fast as they could. The island was small. In the time for only half an incense stick to burn, they had arrived at the battlefield. It was a mess. There was water everywhere. Refugees were fleeing in disorder. Stone forts and attics were collapsed. Many places were floating with dead bodies. Lu Yi had sharp eyes. She saw 5 escorts of the Blood Evil Island at once. They were fighting with low-rank Xian beasts in the water. Patriarch 9 had arrived earlier with others. From the distance came shouts, miserable cries and the roars of monsters. It proved that the third-rank Xian beast was still doing evil. Hunchback Tian. Luli shouted in anger. Hunchback Tian was duty-bound. A powerful qi and energy spread out from him. He rushed towards the distance like a sharp sword. Family Patriarch, you are in charge of treating the wounded. Arrange for all tribes to retreat. Luli carried his mighty heaven halberd and ran forward with all the Green Dwarf. Lu Yi was not good at fighting, so Luli asked her to be in charge of the rear. The terrain here was low. The water was over people's heads. Luli and the Green Dwarfs were powerful. With the help of many trees and stone forts, they made their way forward. The battlefield was right in front of them. Luli saw a group of people fighting with more than a dozen Xian beasts. These Xian beasts all lived in the water, but they were just as ferocious on land. Corpses of escorts of the Blood Evil Island were everywhere. The escorts were trained by the Lu family during this time. They were only at the later stage of the Xian Wu realm. Among the more than a dozen Xian beasts, there were several of the second rank. It was not surprising that so many people died. You two stay here and kill the Xian beasts. Luli asked 2 green dwarfs to help kill the Xian beasts. He took the other 5 green dwarfs and continued. In a call in the distance, Luli heard a muffled roar as well as Hunchback Tian's shout, which indicated that the third-rank Xian beast was over there. With the addition of the 2 green dwarfs, the morale of the Blood Evil army was boosted. Green dwarfs were comparable to warriors of the Soul Pond realm. It was not a problem for them to kill the more than a dozen Xian beasts. What a powerful aura! Before he got close to the call, Luli sensed a strong surge of qi and blood. He also saw several huge tentacles waving in the air like dragon whip. After running up a small hill, Luli finally saw the real body of the 9-clawed octopus. In front of them was not a mountain pass, but a huge valley. At this moment, the valley was filled with water. Half of a huge creature was submerged in the water. A few tentacles with sharp thorns waved continuously, attacking the green dwarfs and Hunchback Tian. The 9th elder was hiding behind another hill. He had brought a few green dwarfs with him. If it weren't for these green dwarfs, there wouldn't be a single living person on this island. So powerful! Luli was shocked after a few glances. The body of the 9-clawed octopus was so huge, even bigger than 2 elephants. The 9 tentacles were more than 30 feet long with sawtooth-like thorns on them. They looked extremely horrifying. Boom! One of the tentacles landed on the small mountain Luli was on. The small mountain trembled and a deep gully appeared. Luli was shocked to see it. The strength of the 9-clawed octopus was so horrifying. If he was hit by one of the tentacles, he would be turned into minced meat. Kill this Xian beast. Luli waved his hand. The 5 green dwarfs behind him rushed forward. The green dwarfs were very fast. They rushed into the valley and dived into the water like sharp swords. Hunchback Tian, lure the Xian beast and let the green dwarfs attack. Luli shouted in a deep voice. Hunchback Tian sneered and said, Island owner Lu, the 9-clawed octopus is very strong in defense. Your green dwarfs cannot break its defense. Hunchback Tian carried a long and narrow golden saber in his hand. Even though his back was hunched like a camel's, he was as fast as the wind. He dashed around in the hills like a phantom. The golden saber in his hand bumped into the tentacles of the nine-clawed octopus from time to time. Surprisingly, he could not leave any mark on the tentacles. Let the green dwarfs distract the nine-clawed octopus. I will go and attack its body. Hunchback Tian shouted. Luli and Patriarch 9 in the distance immediately gave orders. They let the green dwarfs wander around in the hills to attract the attention of the nine-clawed octopus. Whoosh! Hunchback Tian rushed to the back of the hill and hid. When the nine-clawed octopus was distracted by the green dwarfs, he quietly rushed into the lake in the valley and dashed toward the body of the nine-clawed octopus. Swished, when Hunchback Tian was about to get close to the body of the nine-clawed octopus, the nine-clawed octopus was alerted. 3 of its tentacles smashed into the water like shadows. Hunchback Tian soon jumped out of the water. However, streaks of green liquid came out from the dirty water. A part of the water was dyed green. Well done! Patriarch 9 shouted. The blood of the nine-clawed octopus was green. Hunchback Tian's sneak attack was successful. He had wounded the nine-clawed octopus. As long as Hunchback Tian made a few more moves, the nine-clawed octopus would be finished. Nice! Luli had seen Hunchback Tian's fighting capacity today. He was indeed powerful when he was at the peak of the Soul Pond realm. He was so fast. If Hunchback Tian wanted to kill Luli, Luli would not be able to react in time. He would be killed in an instant. Hunchback Tian rushed out and cut at one of the tentacles of the nine-clawed octopus. Surprisingly, Hunchback Tian borrowed the force and jumped back into the water. Soon, he broke out of the water again. In an instant, there were clouds of green liquid gushing out from the water. Hunchback Tian had lived for more than 100 years. Even though he had failed to reach the Fate Wheel realm more than 80 times, he had rich fighting experience. He kept jumping around on the tentacles of the nine-clawed octopus. Every now and then, he would cut at the body of the nine-clawed octopus. Clearly, he was trying to torture the octopus Xian beast to death. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, the lake in the valley turned to dark green. The nine-clawed octopus began to slow down. Luli and Patriarch 9 looked at each other, and they were to each other. Whoosh! A man rushed over from the distance and reported to Patriarch 9. Patriarch 9's expressions changed. He shouted to Luli, island owner, more than a dozen Xian beasts of the second rank are coming out from the volcano again. There are more of them of the first rank. Hunchback Tian will handle this. We will go and suppress them. Okay. Luli nodded. He called the green dwarfs back and told Hunchback Tian what to do. Then he rushed to a group of mountains on the front left. That group of mountains was filled with surging lake water. Luli could faintly see many low-rank creatures in the water. He was getting more confused. The volcano was not spewing out lava, but water? This was so weird. The terrain of this island was not high, but it was much higher than the Thousand Island Lake. Water flowed to lower places. If it was the water of the Thousand Island Lake, how could it come out from here? If so, where did the water come from? After running for more than 3 miles, Luli saw a volcano that was neither too high nor too big. At the moment, a huge water column was spewing out from the crater of the volcano. Some Xian beasts could be faintly seen in the water column. So much water? Where did it come from? This could not be the water of the Thousand Island Lake. What was more, there was no mist in the water, which indicated that this was not the prelude to the eruption of the volcano. There could not be so much water in the volcano. If it was not the water of the Thousand Island Lake, could it be that the water came from another world? Chapter 143. The crater of the volcano had a diameter of more than 100 feet, and the water pillar that was spewing out was also more than 100 feet high. Therefore, the water was very large. If nothing unexpected happened, the island would be completely submerged in an hour at most. It was too late to build a ditch now, it was completely useless. However, the residents of the island all knew how to swim, so as long as there were no Xian beasts attacking them, they would not drown. Kill all the Xian beasts! Luli shouted, and the green dwarfs rushed forward like a sharp sword. Patriarch 9 brought 5 green dwarfs with him, and he brought 7 with him. The remaining 3 were guarding the Blood Evil Island. Luli, Patriarch 9 and the rest of the warriors made their moves. Luli and Patriarch 9 fought against the second-rank Xian beasts, while the average warriors of the Xian Wu realm fought against the first-rank Xian beasts. Luli didn't release his bloodline skill, which could only last for an hour. He would only use it as a last resort. Even so, his combat power was still very strong. Lu Yi had helped him by an Earth-ranked armor, and with an Earth-ranked Xian artifact in his hand, he had activated the Rolling Thunder Xian skill. His strength had reached 50,000 kilograms, and he could easily kill an ordinary second-grade Xian beast. Wow! A huge fish beast shot out from the water. Its mouth was even bigger than Lu Li's body, and it was filled with sharp teeth. Lu Li didn't even look at it. He swung his halberd backhandedly, and the big fish was smashed away. Its head was bleeding. The green dwarfs were even more ferocious. They could deal with second-rank Xian beasts effortlessly. One green claw could kill a Xian beast. Towards the end, Lu Li and Patriarch 9 didn't even have to do anything. The green dwarfs could suppress them easily. Xiao! A shadow flew over from afar. It was Hunchback Tian. It seemed that the 9-tentacled octopus was killed by him. Third-rank Xian beasts were comparable to warriors of the Soul Pond realm, but Hunchback Tian was at the peak of the Soul Pond realm. It was within Lu Li's expectation that he could kill the 9-tentacle octopus easily. Ninth Elder. Lu Li rushed toward Patriarch 9 and said, "I will guard this place with Hunchback Tian. You take the 3 green dwarfs with you to check other places on the island and kill all the Xian beasts." Alright. With Hunchback Tian and the green dwarfs here, Patriarch 9 felt reassured and left with the 3 green dwarfs. Lu Li and Hunchback Tian stood on the peak of a small mountain, keeping their eyes on the volcano in the distance. They let the green dwarfs wander around nearby to kill all the Xian beasts in the water. Hunchback Tian, what's going on with this volcano? There was no danger for now, so Lu Li asked. Hunchback Tian thought about it and said, "The terrain of the Thousand Island Lake is lower than here, so the water here cannot be from the Thousand Island Lake. There are only 2 possibilities." Hunchback Tian had lived for more than 100 years. He was experienced and knowledgeable. Lu Li asked curiously, "Tell me about it." Hunchback Tian stroked his sparse beard with pride, pretending to be profound. Lu Li stared at him. Hunchback Tian immediately put on an obsequious smile and said, "Either a huge underground river changed its course and connected to the bottom of the volcano. Either there was a treasure in the volcano, or a powerful water-type profound beast had affected the flow of the water. Other than that, there is no other explanation." The underground river changed its course? Lu Li believed this deduction. As for powerful Xian beasts of the water attribute, this was a small volcano and the space inside was not big. How could a powerful Xian beast appear here? The stronger a Xian beast was, the larger its body would be. Treasure? This piqued Lu Li's interest. Which warrior didn't like treasures? If there really was a treasure of the water attribute that caused the Thousand Island Lake to erupt, it was not impossible. The crater was still erupting. Lu Li could vaguely see some Xian beasts coming out. Of course, Lu Li didn't dare to send anyone into the volcano to investigate. He had to wait and see. Fortunately, the Xian beasts that came out later were not powerful. They were all of the 1st or 2nd rank. There were no more 3rd-rank Xian beasts. Hunchback Tian didn't do anything either. It was the green dwarfs who did the cleaning. Patriarch 9 came back once. The Xian beasts outside had been completely cleared out. Luli asked him to leave the green dwarfs behind and help Lu Yi organize people to relocate the tribe people on the island. The volcano was still erupting water. It would be better for them to leave. 4 hours passed. The water spouting out from the crater began to die down. Luli was relieved. It seemed that a huge underground river had changed its course and triggered the eruption. There were many underground rivers and lakes in the underground. It was normal for some Xian beasts to live in them. There were thousands of people on the island. More than 1,000 were killed, and the rest were being relocated. It should be almost time. That being said, Luli dared not to leave before he was completely sure that it was safe. Another hour passed. The volcano stopped erupting water, and the water level in the crater was dropping fast. Luli and Hunchback Tian went to the crater. They looked at the deep and gloomy crater in silence. Hunchback Tian, how about we go down and have a look? After a while, Luli thought about it and said, what if there really is a treasure down there? Hunchback Tian was tempted. He glanced at the green dwarfs behind Luli and said, I don't dare to go down by myself unless you go with me with the green dwarfs. With the green dwarfs, Hunchback Tian would have a chance to escape even if he ran into a powerful Xian beast. Otherwise, if he went down by himself and encountered a 4th-rank Xian beast, he wouldn't even have a chance to escape. Luli looked at the deep and gloomy crater. He blinked and hesitated. Finally, he made up his mind and said, Okay, I will ask someone to find some ropes. If there were ropes and there were people pulling them, he could get up easily. With the green dwarfs and Hunchback Tian here, he would be safe. The volcano was erupting water out of nowhere. He would feel uneasy if he didn't go and have a look. Patriarch 7 and Patriarch Lu were not here, and Patriarch 9 was arranging the evacuation of the people on the island. As the island owner, Luli had to shoulder this responsibility. Luli sent someone to the tribe to find some ropes and asked several people to wait at the crater. He tied the ropes around his waist, waved his hand and said, Let's go down. Hunchback Tian was so powerful that he didn't need rope. The green dwarf's sharp claws could easily pierce into the walls of the volcano without rope. Luli and several people at the crater agreed on a secret signal and slowly climbed down. Hunchback Tian was the most powerful one. He took the lead. His Xian energy glowed and he jumped down directly. In midair, he stabbed the golden saber in his hand into the wall of the volcano and stopped his fall. The 8 green dwarfs did the same. Their sharp claws easily dug into the wall and they climbed down quickly. Hunchback Tian released his Xian energy, which could illuminate the situation down there. The water level in the crater was dropping fast. They had gone down for thousands of feet, but there was still no water. The inside of the volcano was quiet and spooky, making people's hair stand on end. With Hunchback Tian and the 8 green dwarfs, Luli was born brave, so he didn't feel anything. They continued to climb down. After more than 10,000 feet, they finally arrived at the bottom of the volcano. There was no longer any water or lava below. There was only wet ground and a lot of algae and other things. There is a hole here. The bottom of the volcano was not big, only with a radius of more than 10,000 feet. Hunchback Tian circled around and saw a big hole in the corner, slanting towards the underground. Does it lead to the underground river? Luli untied the ropes, walked over, took a look and said, Let's go and have a look along the hole. Now that they were down there, they must have a clear look. If it was an underground river, then they could just ask someone to block the passage. Next time, such a tragedy wouldn't happen and so many people would die. Hunchback Tian walked in the front, followed by the green dwarfs, and Luli at the back. The two moved forward along the slippery underground tunnel. The tunnel slanted towards the underground. Where would it lead to? An hour. Luli and Hunchback Tian walked for an hour before they reached the end of the tunnel. They glanced over from a distance, only to be shocked. They saw an underground lake. If it were an ordinary underground lake, they wouldn't be surprised. But this lake was not ordinary because it could glow. There was a bright glow at the bottom of the lake which lit up the entire underground lake. Rare treasures. Chapter 144. Kid. Hunchback Tian took a few glances at the underground lake and said, "If there really is a treasure down there, let's split it 20-20 for me and 20 for you." Get lost. Luli stared at him and said, "Do you still want to cast a fate wheel or not? One attempt at the fate wheel realm would cost 3 million Xian crystals and 10 attempts would cost 30 million Xian crystals. Are you sure there are treasures down there? Even if it was worth 30 million? 50-50 or you can get the hell out of the Blood Evil Island." As soon as Luli showed his power, Hunchback Tian was terrified and didn't dare to say another word. Luli waved his hand and said, "Don't talk about useless things. We don't know what's down there yet. Let's go and have a look first." Hunchback Tian nodded. He hid at the entrance of the cave and closed his eyes to sense. Soon, he opened his eyes in astonishment and said, "There are no powerful Xian beasts in the lake? Did it all erupt just now?" "Not even one powerful Xian beast?" Luli asked with confusion. Hunchback Tian sensed again and said with certainty, "Not one. Let's go." Luli waved his hand and Hunchback Tian led the way. Luli asked the green dwarfs to follow Hunchback Tian while he followed behind. Luli sensed around after he got into the lake. There were no powerful Xian beasts. Hunchback Tian took the lead and swam towards the center of the lake. The glowing place was at the bottom of the lake. The lake wasn't big. The two soon swam to the center of the lake. Hunchback Tian sensed again. After making sure there weren't any powerful Xian beasts, he said, "Island owner, should I go down and check?" "Go." Luli was not afraid that Hunchback Tian would take everything for himself. If he did, Luli would kick him out of the Blood Evil Island. With Ming Yu as his trump card, Hunchback Tian didn't dare to act recklessly. Hunchback Tian dived into the lake and dived towards the bottom. Luli saw Hunchback Tian approaching the glowing dot through the clear water. The underground lake was not deep. It was only about 3,000 feet deep. Hunchback Tian was very fast. He came up in the time it took for an incense stick to burn. He took a few deep breaths and said with disappointment, "It's not a treasure, it's just a glowing stone. The rock is too big, I can't move it. This stone doesn't have any fluctuations, so it shouldn't be a treasure." "Oh." Luli blinked and asked after some thoughts, "How do you hold your breath in the water? I'll go down and take a look." "Stupid." Hunchback Tian squinted at Luli and explained, "When you mobilize your Xian energy in the water, you will naturally be able to hold your breath. Just hold on for the time for several incense sticks to burn. Go down." Luli held his breath, mobilized his Xian energy and swam underwater. Hunchback Tian followed him, and so did the green dwarfs. They didn't have any profound energy, but they didn't feel any discomfort in the water. It was very relaxing. Luli swam for the time it took for half an incense stick to burn before he reached the place of more than 10,000 feet. Hunchback Tian didn't lie. There really was a huge white stone down there. The white stone had a circumference of 100 feet, and more than half of it was buried in the mud at the bottom of the lake. Apart from glowing, there was nothing special about it. Luli thought about it. He lifted his mighty heaven halberd and stabbed at the sand near the rock. The mighty heaven halberd went in easily. Luli used his strength to pry away the sand to see how deep the stone was buried. However, he dug down to a depth of 5 feet, but the stone was still deeply embedded in the ground. He pondered for a moment and carried the mighty heaven halberd on his back. He signaled Hunchback Tian with his eyes. The two of them grabbed the corner of the rock with both hands and tried to pull the rock out. It didn't budge a bit. Luli was so strong, and Hunchback Tian was even stronger. Yet the two of them couldn't move the rock at all. The two looked at each other, speechless. If they couldn't move the rock, Then it wouldn't matter how many people they found. Luli swam around the rock for a bit. He was a bit disappointed. He was happy for nothing. He pulled out the mighty heaven halberd on his back and hacked at the rock with force, trying to see if he could break off a small piece so that he could take it back to be identified and see what kind of ore it was. Buzzing. When the mighty heaven halberd hit the white rock, the rock suddenly let out a glaring light. Luli and Hunchback Tian were blinded. They couldn't see anything clearly. The green dwarfs had been following Luli. They were also hit by the glaring light and couldn't see anything clearly. Hunchback Tian's heart suddenly trembled. He felt a strong fluctuation coming from inside the rock, the fluctuation of an inhibition formation. Hunchback Tian instinctively felt the danger. He wanted to reach out to grab Luli and run away with him. Unexpectedly, a surge of strange power spread out from the rock. At that moment, he felt he was being suppressed by heaven and earth. He couldn't even move his fingers, let alone his body. Oh no! Luli also realized he couldn't move. His heart skipped a beat. He secretly regretted his recklessness. Such a powerful inhibition formation was triggered by himself. He, Hunchback Tian, and the 8 green dwarfs would all be smashed into pieces. The green dwarfs could not see clearly, but their eyes were filled with fear and panic. The fluctuation of the inhibition formation in the rock was so powerful that they felt fear out of instinct. Is this inhibition formation man-made or natural? An idea flashed across Hunchback Tian's mind. If it was man-made, they might have a chance to survive. If it was a natural restriction, the two of them would be completely finished. Oh no, it is a teleportation inhibition formation. The mysterious power enveloping everyone suddenly became stronger. Hunchback Tian could clearly feel that the power was pulling them into the rock. Hunchback Tian complained to himself. This teleportation inhibition formation was even more horrifying. If they were teleported to a small world, they might never be able to come back. Buzzing, the light was getting brighter and brighter. Eventually, everyone was swallowed up. Luli, Hunchback Tian, and the 8 green dwarfs disappeared above the white rock. The white light from the rock slowly faded away. Eventually, it dimmed down completely. The entire underground lake was swallowed up by darkness. Sh*t, after a long time, Luli was woken up by a roar. He blinked his eyes and saw that he was in a lush forest. Hunchback Tian was nearby, constantly swearing. Where are we? Luli looked around. Through the dense foliage, he saw 2 suns in the sky. He sat up abruptly, rubbed his eyes and said, Am I dreaming? How come there are 2 suns in the sky? The 8 green dwarfs had woken up. They looked around with their green eyes, feeling uneasy. Hunchback Tian noticed that Luli had woken up. He turned around and shouted to Luli, Punk, I am doomed because of you, because of you. Why did you smash that rock for no reason? What are you doing? Luli felt something was wrong. He looked around again and said, Hunchback Tian, what are you shouting about? Can shouting solve the problem? Tell me first, where are we? Where? Hunchback Tian showed a trace of despair in his eyes. He shook his head and murmured, Where else? Clearly, this is a small world that has never been discovered. Based on our power, there is no way we can get out. Small world? Luli was surprised. He didn't know much about small worlds. He only knew that there were many cracks in space in the outside world, and there were some strange small worlds hidden in them. Some small worlds were formed naturally, and some were refined by powerful warriors. Those were called secret realms. Hunchback Tian said that this was a small world, so it was very likely that it was formed naturally. The 1,000-island lake found a passageway connecting 3 small worlds. The green dwarf slaves around Luli were captured from one of the small worlds. Coincidentally, they found the entrance to a small world. Luli casually swung his halberd and teleported them in. Luli thought about it and asked in confusion, Hunchback Tian, didn't the Thousand-Island Lake find 3 small worlds? These green dwarfs were captured from the small world. Since other forces can go in and out of small worlds at will, we should be able to get out if we are careful. You know nothing. Chapter 145. Twice the density? Luli sat with his legs crossed and cultivated for a while. He found that his cultivation speed was indeed faster here, just like when he was cultivating in the guest room of the Heaven Prison Tavern. He opened his eyes and his expression became solemn. The xian-qi of heaven and earth was rich here. If there were indigenous people here, their cultivation speed would double, and it would be easier for them to produce experts. There were 3 small worlds in the Thousand-Island Lake. Hunchback Tian said that the Old Man of Heaven Prison led a team to suppress them in person. Luli didn't know exactly what realm the Old Man of Heaven Prison was at, but he must be at the peak as he was ranked 3rd on the Northern Desert Warlord list. In other words, the indigenous people in the small world were powerful. There must be some at the Eternal Realm, if not at the Noble Lord Realm. On the other hand, Hunchback Tian was only at the peak of the Soul Pond Realm. He couldn't even handle a warrior of the Fate Wheel Realm, let alone the Eternal Realm. He is indeed too reckless, Luli sighed to himself. There was nothing more to say now. He had done his best and the rest was up to fate. Hunchback Tian was furious for a while, but he calmed himself down and sighed helplessly. Let's go and take a look around. If God blesses us and there are no natives in this small world, we can still find a way to go back. If there is, we are prepared to bury our bones here. Luli got up and asked the green dwarfs to follow him. They slowly moved forward in the forest. Hunchback Tian was very cautious along the way. He kept looking around. Rustle, rustle, rustle. After walking for more than 10 miles, the sound of friction suddenly came from the front. Hunchback Tian immediately became nervous. He leaped up the tree and looked into the distance. He shouted, "Single-horned python? Run!" Luli had heard of the unicorn boa, a 3rd-rank xian beast. What he didn't understand was why Hunchback Tian, who was at the peak of the Soul Pond realm, would be afraid of a unicorn boa. Hunchback Tian had already turned around and started running. Luli dared not to ask more questions. He had to let a green dwarf carry him and run. If he didn't release his bloodline divine skill, his speed wouldn't be fast enough. Rustle, the sound of something rubbing against the ground was getting louder and louder. Luli finally understood why Hunchback Tian wanted to escape. This was because there wasn't just one sound coming from behind, but many, which meant that there were at least dozens of horned pythons. Get a green dwarf to block it, or else you won't be able to escape. Hunchback Tian's roar came from the front. He didn't run by himself. He slowed down a bit. Luli clenched his teeth and ordered a green dwarf, "Go and stop the xian beasts behind us." There was a soul worm in the head of the green dwarf, so it couldn't resist its master's order. A trace of fear flashed through its green eyes, but it could only turn around and run away. Whoosh. Luli didn't dare to stop, so he let a stronger green dwarf carry him as he ran. Soon after, a series of sizzling sounds could be heard from behind. Not long after, that green dwarf let out a blood-curdling screech. It was likely that it had met a tragic end. It had probably been devoured by the horned python. Luli controlled the green dwarfs to run for their lives. He only saw Hunchback Tian after running for more than 30 miles. Hunchback Tian stood on a huge tree and looked around for a while before saying, "They didn't come. What the hell is this place?" Dozens of horned pythons appeared at once. The more powerful the xian beasts were, the fewer their numbers would be. This was the same principle as human warriors. There were many 3rd-rank xian beasts outside, but Hunchback Tian had never seen dozens of single-horned serpents at once. One of the green dwarfs died. Luli felt bitter inside. Hunchback Tian was not as obedient as he was outside. Every green dwarf that died was one less. Without the green dwarfs, Hunchback Tian would have died. Let's go. After a while, Hunchback Tian waved his hand to let Luli follow him. At this moment, Luli had a bad impression of Hunchback Tian. Hunchback Tian must be bringing Luli along so that he could block Xian beasts or enemies at the critical moment. That being said, it was reasonable to consider things from Hunchback Tian's point of view. The two of them might not be able to get out this time. Without their lives, it would be a joke to try to reach the Fate Wheel realm. Luli was useless to Hunchback Tian now. Naturally, he wouldn't treat Hunchback Tian the way he used to. After all, Hunchback Tian and Luli didn't have a deep friendship. The two of them moved forward in silence. The 7 green dwarfs followed them. Hunchback Tian kept on searching, more carefully this time. After running for more than 10 miles, Hunchback Tian angrily shouted again, "There is a 4th-rank Xian beast up ahead. Let 2 green dwarfs block it, or else we will all die." 4th-rank Xian beast? Luli trembled. His eyes flickered and he was a bit hesitant. As soon as a surge of beasts might spread over from afar, Luli made up his mind. He sent 2 green dwarfs to the front, and asked 1 green dwarf to take Hunchback Tian and run to the left. Roar! An earth-shaking roar came out. The entire forest was shaking. Luli's chi and blood were tumbling because of the shock. He urged the green dwarfs to speed up. He himself would look back every now and then, fearing that the huge monster would catch up with them. Hunchback Tian really wanted to make Luli a scapegoat. They were already out of sight. Luli secretly cursed, but there was nothing he could do. He had to keep running forward. Roar! Another earth-shaking roar came from behind. The beasts might envelop Luli again. Also, there came some muffled footstep. Luli complained to himself. He had to send 2 green dwarfs to block the beast's way. Otherwise, if the 4th-rank Xian beast got closer, he would die for sure. Of the 8 green dwarfs they brought in, 5 had been lost in such a short time. Luli's eyes dimmed down. He had a feeling that he and Hunchback Tian were really going to die here. The green dwarfs carried out his orders to the letter. The 2 green dwarfs ran backward one after the other. Luli was carried by 1 green dwarf. After the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, Luli suddenly felt there was light in front of him. He was overjoyed. Were they finally out of the forest? Hoi hoi boom boom boom. Before he made it out, Luli heard Hunchback Tian's angry shout and the sound of explosions caused by the Xian energy hitting the stone peaks on the ground. Are there Xian beasts out there as well? Luli rushed out and looked around. Soon, he found Hunchback Tian. Luli's face was filled with shock after a few glances. It was not a Xian beast that was fighting Hunchback Tian, but 4 people, 4 young girls. The 4 were about the same age as Luli, but they were all at the Soul Pond realm. More importantly, they were so fast, even faster than Hunchback Tian. They were like 4 shadows of ghosts. That was not the point. The point was that there was a beautiful girl of about 11 or 12 standing on a small hill on the left. The girl didn't make any moves. She just looked at the battlefield indifferently. Luli sensed casually and found that the girl was also at the Soul Pond realm. Unfortunately, Hunchback Tian was right. The Xian Qi in heaven and earth was very rich here. If there were indigenous people here, they must be very powerful. The 5 young girls were dressed strangely. They were all wearing sackcloth and had braided hair. Their ears seemed to be quite pointy. Clearly, they were indigenous people of this small world. There were 5 indigenous people, and all of them were at the Soul Pond realm. The girl was only 11 or 12 years old, but she had reached the Soul Pond realm as well. How many powerful warriors were there in this small world? Unimaginable! What realm were the most powerful warriors at? Unimaginable as well. How many outsiders are there? The 4 young girls were fighting with Hunchback Tian, so they didn't pay attention to Luli. However, the beautiful girl standing on the peak of the hill did. A trace of mockery appeared on her indifferent face. She said, just in time, "This old man is dying of old age. His meat is disgusting. This one is still young. I will cook it when I get back." Chapter 146. Hunchback Tian was besieged by the four girls, but he was not at a disadvantage. The four girls were only at the initial stage of the Soul Pond realm, but Hunchback Tian was at the peak. Even so, he could not gain the upper hand. The four girls were so fast that Luli could only tell that they were girls. They were young, so he could not see their faces clearly. The four girls moved around Hunchback Tian like phantoms. Even though they were only at the initial stage of the Soul Pond realm, they were faster than Hunchback Tian. The four of them cooperated well. Their way of attack was similar to that of the Green Dwarf. They relied on their horrifying speed and the hooks in their hands to launch sneak attack. Once they missed, they would retreat immediately. Each of them had 2 black hooks in their hand. The hooks were very sharp and glinted coldly. If one was hooked, a piece of flesh would be gone. Hunchback Tian carried a long and narrow golden saber and waved it around. Every now and then, he would release Xian energy, trying to hit the girls. It was a pity that the girls' perception was even better than their speed. Their footwork was amazing as well. They would change their paths suddenly, so Hunchback Tian could not locate them. Hunchback Tian could not do anything to the four, nor could he get away. The four of them could not kill Hunchback Tian either. They had to keep moving around him and attacking. Luli looked away after a while. He fixed his eyes on the little girl at the peak of the mountain. Even though the girl was wearing coarse hemp clothes like the four girls, she had a gem necklace on her neck and bracelets on her hand. She was arrogant. Clearly, she had a high status. Luli thought quickly. In the time for a few breaths, he made up his mind. He had to help Hunchback Tian. Otherwise, if Hunchback Tian died, he would not survive either. There were 2 ways to help Hunchback Tian. The first was to help him attack the four girls, and the second was to capture the little girl at the peak of the mountain. He chose the latter. Little girls were easier to deal with. He didn't want to kill the little girl. He just wanted to take her as a hostage to threaten the four girls. "Get that little girl," he ordered the 3 green dwarfs behind him. He rushed forward like a cheetah with his mighty heaven halberd in his hand. "You, an ant, want to shake the sky?" Seeing the 3 green dwarfs and Luli running towards her, the little girl was not scared at all. Instead, she mocked. The 4 girls fighting against Hunchback Tian looked over. They didn't mind at all and continued to fight Hunchback Tian. Whoosh! The 3 green dwarfs turned into a gust of wind and rushed to the top of the mountain. A pair of golden hooks appeared in the hands of the beautiful little girl. Her body lit up with a green light, and she turned into a gust of wind and floated over. Hiss! When she approached the first green dwarf, the necklace and bracelet on the little girl's neck lit up. Her speed suddenly skyrocketed, and she passed by a green dwarf. The hook slid across the green dwarf's lower abdomen. The green dwarf cried out in pain as a deep bloody mark appeared on its lower abdomen. Oh! Luli was shocked. This little girl was even faster than the other 4 girls. Moreover, this little girl's hook was different from the other 4 girls' hooks. It was golden in color and was shining brightly. It was comparable to a powerful, profound level weapon. Whoosh! Luli was stunned, but the little girl was not. She moved around like a gust of wind. Every time she passed by the green dwarfs, she would leave some bloody marks on them. The green dwarfs had a good defense. When they were attacked, their scales would appear. However, under the little girl's hooks, the green dwarfs were like tofu. She easily left some bloody marks on them. Green blood splattered everywhere. In the time for just a few breaths, the 3 green dwarfs all had several bloody marks on them. Hoi! If the little girl continued to attack, the 3 green dwarfs would be tortured to death. Luli had to do it himself. He mobilized his Xian power, swung his mighty heaven halberd and swept at the little girl. Whoosh! When the mighty heaven halberd swept by, the little girl suddenly crouched down and dodged the mighty heaven halberd just in time. She rushed past Lu Li like a gust of wind, and her hook swept across Lu Li's lower abdomen. Crack, crack! Lu Li was wearing an earth-grade armor, but some sparks came out. Lu Li looked down and was shocked. There was a crack on his armor. The earth-grade armor was broken easily. Hoi! He swung his halberd backhandedly, but he could not hit the little girl. He clearly saw that the little girl had just passed by him, but he could only hit an afterimage. When he turned around to look for the little girl, he heard a breeze behind him. He felt some cold air on his neck. Without hesitation, he swung his halberd behind him and rolled on the ground in front of him at the same time. Clank, clank, he dodged quickly. Sparks came out from the armor on his back, and a long and narrow crack appeared on the armor. That was not all. While Lu Li was rolling on the ground, he felt some cold air coming from his back. He had to keep rolling, but there were sparks on his back. He was attacked for 7 or 8 times in a row. Luckily, the green dwarfs rushed over and helped him deal with the first wave of attack. Lu Li climbed up in embarrassment. He found that his armor was full of cracks. It was like a ragged robe, out of shape. Many places on his body were injured and blood was flowing out. Luckily, the armor had absorbed much of the force, so the wounds were not deep. The armor was so tattered that it affected his movements. Lu Li simply took it off, only to find that the robe underneath was also ragged. There was a strange dragon pattern on his back. Because the robe on the back was torn, more than half of it was exposed. The animal tooth pendant on his neck was also revealed. However, he had no robe to change into. Since he was about to be killed, he couldn't care less. He clenched his teeth and shouted, "Burning blood!" His muscles swelled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. His eyes turned silver, and the dragon pattern on his back glowed. He grabbed a healing pellet and swallowed it. The animal tooth pendant on his neck began to glow. At this moment of life and death, Lu Li had no choice but to reveal all his cards. If he still held back his strength, he would be cut open by the little girl in the next moment. Wah wah! A green dwarf in front of him had its neck turned into a bloody mark. The green dwarf cried out and fell to the ground, twitching. Blood gushed out from its mouth. Clearly, it could not make it. Kill! Lu Li no longer hesitated or worried. This little girl was too powerful. He could not treat her as a little girl. He had to treat her as an enemy, cold-blooded and merciless. If he could not kill the little girl, he would be the one dying. The little girl was fighting with the other 2 green dwarfs in a blur. Lu Li ran on like crazy. There was not a trace of emotion in his silver eyes. He was like a cold-blooded Xian beast in human form. Boom! The little girl moved aside and left a deep bloody mark on the neck of another green dwarf. Lu Li was close to the little girl, but the little girl did not care. In her eyes, Lu Li was too weak. Lu Li had been holding back his speed. When he was close to the little girl, he suddenly sped up. The mighty heaven halberd cut at the little girl's waist in a blur. The little girl was about to kill the remaining green dwarf when she felt something was wrong. She looked back and saw Lu Li's silver eyes and the mighty heaven halberd that was as fast as lightning. A trace of terror appeared in her eyes. Then she shouted at the top of her lungs, "Dummy, help me!" Bang! The hill suddenly exploded. Dirt and stones flew everywhere. A huge arm reached out from the hill. The 5 fingers were as thick as Lu Li's hand, just like the arm of a god. The hand broke through the earth like lightning and grabbed Lu Li's mighty heaven halberd. Then the huge hand exerted force. The mighty heaven halberd, an earth-grade Xian artifact, was shattered. Chapter 147. Lu Li was stunned. In the distance, Hunchback Tian was stunned as well. He lost all hope when he saw the hand. He blinked his blurry eyes and said, "It really is the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race." Boom! The hill exploded. A huge body broke out from the ground. He didn't jump up. He just stood there, but he was as tall as the hill. Rocks rolled down and dirt flew everywhere. Luli and the green dwarf both rolled down from the hill. Luli got up and saw the giant in the hill. From the depth of his soul came a sense of fear, as if he was facing a powerful Xian beast of the 5th or 6th rank. This was a real giant, at least 30 feet tall. His arms were thicker than Luli's body. He had golden skin, no hair on his head, and his eyes were golden as well. He was like a golden man made of gold. The giant didn't wear any clothes on his upper body. He only wore a short hide skirt. He didn't release any powerful chi and energy, but his hill-like body made people feel fear and pressure out of instinct. The earth-grade Xian artifact was crushed by the giant's gentle pinch. How strong was the giant? Luli could not imagine. What if the giant was grabbing him? He would have become a pile of meat by now. The little girl was standing on the giant's shoulder, looking at Luli with mockery. The 4 young girls and Hunchback Tian stopped fighting. They were also looking at Luli and Hunchback Tian with mockery. "Dummy, kill them for me." The little girl stood on the giant's shoulder and ordered, while pointing at Luli and Hunchback Tian. Hunchback Tian quickly shouted, "Wait!" The little girl waved her hand. The giant stopped moving. She said indifferently, "What? Old Hunchback, are you scared?" "My dear, how can I not be scared?" Hunchback Tian sighed helplessly and said, "The Cyan Phoenix race is known as the race with the most insane speed in the Central Plains, and the Mammoth race is the one with the most insane strength. With our strength, we can only bring humiliation upon ourselves. We surrender. No more fighting." The Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race? Luli had never heard of these 2 races. But since they were the race with the most insane speed and strength in the Central Plains, they must be horrifying. He had a taste of the giant's strength just now. The little girl raised her head proudly and said, "You, old Hunchback, have some good eyes. Dumb, capture them and bring them back. As for the green dwarf, just kill him." Boom! The giant shot out from the small mountain and fell like a small mountain. His thigh, which was like a giant stick that could hold up the sky, swept horizontally. The remaining green dwarf had no time to dodge and was sent flying by the giant's kick, smashing it to death. Hiss! Then the giant bent down and reached out to Luli and Hunchback Tian with both hands as fast as lightning. Hunchback Tian didn't resist, but Luli couldn't. He was grabbed by the giant's hand. Hiss, hiss, the hand didn't seem to exert much force, but Luli felt his bones were about to be crushed. He couldn't even breathe and his face was red. The little girl on the golden giant's shoulder glanced at it and said, "Dummy, don't kill it. Grandpa wants to interrogate it later." The golden giant nodded slightly and loosened his grip. The little girl looked at the 4 girls and said, "Come on up, it's time to return to the tribe." "Yes, Princess She." The 4 girls saluted respectfully. With a tap of one leg, their bodies floated up to the left and right shoulders of the golden giant like the wind. The golden giant strode forward with its huge legs and dashed into the distance. Bang, 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 with every step the golden giant took, the ground would shake and let out a muffled sound. The golden giant was fast. Even though there was no Xian energy glowing, and it seemed that the golden giant was just walking with his physical strength, his legs were long. He could cross several feet in one stride. Luli and Hunchback Tian were caught. They couldn't move, but they didn't dare to fight back either. All they could do was pray. They just attacked a random white stone, but they were teleported to a small world where the indigenous people were ridiculously powerful. Luli felt like he was cursed. How unlucky he was. If he died here, what would happen to Little White who was still at the Dragon Elephant Mountain? What about Lu Ling who was at the Cyan Plains? What about his parents who were in the ice abyss? On this thought, Luli had mixed feelings. He didn't know what to feel. Hunchback Tian seemed to have accepted his fate. He hung his head down and his eyes dimmed. He looked like he was ready to die. The golden giant ran madly, crossing thousands of mountains and valleys. After running for 3 hours, he arrived at the side of a large lake, where he stopped. Luli was in low spirit. The time of his bloodline skill 2 hours ago was up. Even though he had rested for 2 hours, he still felt weak. At this moment, he forced himself to pull himself together. Lu Ling said that he could not give up even if he knew he was going to die. Luli looked around, observing the situation, looking for a chance to escape. The golden giant stood on the peak of a mountain. In the distance was a huge lake. At the foot of the mountain, in front of the lake, Luli saw many wooden attics. There must be thousands of them. The attics were surrounded by luxuriant trees. The view of the tribe was wonderful, just like a paradise. "Dummy, go down!" the little girl shouted. The golden giant rushed towards the tribe in strides. The muffled footsteps alarmed many people in the tribe. Many people came out from the attic. "Princess, she is back from hunting? Why are there 2 people in Dummy's hands? Are they from the outside? How come there are outsiders? Go and report to the tribe patriarch." The tribe became lively. Many people rushed over in a blur. They stood on the open ground outside the tribe and looked at Luli and Hunchback Tian with curiosity. Luli sniffled in embarrassment. This was not a good feeling. It was as if he was a strange Xian beast surrounded by a crowd of people. For them, the indigenous people were of alien races, but for the indigenous people, they were alien races. The little girl called Princess She proudly jumped down from the golden giant's shoulder. She pointed to Luli and Hunchback Tian and said, "These are my trophies. How about we cook them later?" The group of Cyan Phoenix race males and females were stunned. Then they burst into laughter. Many people spoke. "If Princess She wants to eat them, then let's cook them. But they must be soft so that they will taste better. I think it's better to eat them raw. We can dip them in some sauce." No. Roast them. Take an iron spike and pierce it into the head. Sprinkle some cumin and sesame oil on it. It will be the best when the skin is burnt and the meat is crispy. I think we can stir-fry them. Luli and Hunchback Tian's hair stood on end. The Cyan Phoenix race liked to eat people? Eat them raw? Roast them? At the thought of being turned into a whole sheep and being roasted over a bonfire, Luli cursed again in his mind. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Footsteps came from the tribe. Then a brown-haired old man walked out surrounded by a group of people. Hunchback Tian felt hopeless after a glance. He felt the 5 people in front of him were like dragons and elephants, giving him a feeling that he could not defeat them. He would only have this feeling when he was facing powerful warriors of the Eternal Realm. The brown-haired old man walked out with his men. He looked at the golden giant and said, "Put them down. Go back, dummy." The golden giant threw Luli and Hunchback Tian to the ground and ran towards the mountain. Luli and Hunchback Tian crawled up. They didn't dare to move. However, Luli secretly mobilized his Xian energy, ready for a desperate fight. The brown-haired old man glanced over to Luli. He was surprised when he saw the animal tooth pendant on Luli's neck. He looked at it carefully. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. His lips trembled and he said in a trembling voice, "Young man, do you have a silver dragon mark on your back?" Luli got up as soon as he was thrown down. The old man did not see the silver dragon mark on Luli's back. He said in confusion, "Yes, there is one." "Why?" The old man trembled again. This time, it was not his lips that trembled, but his entire body. He looked at Luli with passion as if he was looking at a naked beauty. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.